What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PFF's 2023 NFL Draft Show, the recap edition. Presented by our friends over at Game Time, the fastest growing ticketing app in the United States, where you can get up to 60% off of tickets for whatever you're looking for. Sporting events, comedy shows, theater, music, whatever it is. Download the Game Time app. Get yourself the lowest tickets guaranteed. I am Trevor Sikkema. With me here on the desk is Seth Galina. And, buddy, we're powered by the acai bowls that we had 30 minutes ago because that's the only thing keeping me upright right now after 3 straight days of NFL draft coverage. How you doing?
I've already booked back surgery because sitting in this stool for 8 hours yesterday. Look, luckily I live in Canada, so I don't have to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Like, cool. Rub it in my face. Nice.
It's all paid for by the government.
Good.
But it was a rough one yesterday, but at least we have some good ideas about this draft now, right? Like,
yes.
It happened. We're good. We're ready to go.
No, this is great. Obviously, day 3 is quite the grind. Shout out to everybody who joined us on yesterday's show. We know it was a long stream. We know we were a little bit loopy at times with our analysis. Maybe that'll continue over here to this recap show, but now we get to talk about the NFL draft as a whole. So for the next hour and a half, however long this recap goes, we're going to be going through every single team in the NFL and telling you what we think about their 2023 draft haul. And if there's some notable undrafted free agents as well, we'll announce that here on the show, and we'll talk about if that impacts what we think of their overall class. Seth, it's going to be a long one, so I figure we just get it started right away. We can go division by division. Let's start with the AFC. Let's go to the AFC East, and we'll start with the Buffalo Bills. This is a team that I think made a splash in the first round by moving up a little bit and going to get an offensive weapon for Josh Allen. So if you look at their total haul, Dalton Kincaid is who I was referencing, tight end from Utah. He goes with their first selection. You got O'Cyrus Torrence in the second round, Dorian Williams from Tulane in the third round, then Justin Shorter in the fifth round, the wide receiver from Florida, Nick Broker, the offensive tackle from Ole Miss. A lot of SEC in there. A lot of SEC football in those 5 picks that we have for the Buffalo Bills. Seth, overall thoughts?
Well, let's start with Tulane, a former SEC member as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
left in the 1930s, but you can still claim it.
I did not know this.
Yes.
But we'll claim it here.
We'll claim it here.
Because the SEC obviously needs help claiming more prospects in the NFL draft every single year. But what did you think of Kincaid? Because you had a really good point that you made on the draft show about the Buffalo Bills drafting Dalton Kincaid. I think people look at this on a surface level and say, "Oh, great weapon for Josh Allen. Love the move." But you're just wondering, you brought up a good point with the context.
Yeah, I think that the issue is they just paid Dawson Knox, so you're getting a similar type of player. Now, obviously, you're picking Dalton Kincaid in the first round. A lot of people had him as like top 10 prospect, so you're assuming, if your evaluation is right, that he is going to come in and just be this really great tight end, right? If that's the case, for sure he'll be better than Dawson Knox. Like, that's not a problem. And then he's a really good tight end, and we're good. However, the issue is, like, I think when we talk about 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends on the field. So you take off one of your receivers, you put on the second tight end. A lot of teams are into that these days. But the thing is, usually you have 2 different types of tight ends on the field. So for the Bills, even though it wasn't technically 12 personnel, they were really into Dawson Knox and Reggie Gilliam, who's like their fullback tight end type of person. That gives them the versatility because you can still run the ball with some interesting, diverse schemes with the fullback tight end on the field. But you get Dawson Knox, maybe a matchup issue because he's a tight end who can run around and catch the football. With Kincaid and Dawson Knox, you don't have that versatility. Again, if Kincaid hits and he is this player that we think he's going to be, then no problem, right? Because you just put good players on the field and you're going to be great. But I think that's where my kind of issues are in terms of the fit. And this has been a team that probably needs to take some load off of Josh Allen eventually. Like top 3 quarterback in the league, whatever it may be, great player. At some point, it's going to be like, okay, we can't just rely on him to run around and make plays for us to win a Super Bowl. Like, there's going to be games where we're maybe going to have to hand the ball off and run the football. And you don't get that with a 2 tight end set of Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid.
Well, that goes into their second selection, O'Cyrus Torrence. I think a lot of people liked the pick of, I would say the thought process of O'Cyrus Torrence going to the Buffalo Bills. It was a common mock draft selection. They ended up taking him in the second round, which I think was great value, honestly. But when I would see O'Cyrus Torrence to the Bills in the first round, some people would go, okay, they're hitting an interior offensive line need, but they just don't normally prioritize that. Like they have not prioritized that type of run game, that power run game, leaning on the run. It has not been what Buffalo has done outside of Josh Allen's usage there. So do you think that this is more of them saying we need to get to more of that? What you were just referencing, we need to be able to hand the ball off more. We've got to be able to run between the tackles, up the middle, be a more imposing team, not just with Josh Allen, but with whoever is carrying the ball out of the back.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where they have to be. And it's not, I'm not saying like when they go spread with like all the receivers on the field and, you know, Josh Allen running the show, like that's their best. That's what they do best. And that's what makes them like a consistent contender in the AFC, 100%. There's just going to be times, and you could afford to think like this, taking an O'Cyrus Torrence, whether it would have been in the first round or now in the second round, like you said, great value, because you're not far away, because you have the pieces and mainly Josh Allen. So I think this is great. Like, okay, we can play a couple different ways when we need to. I think that's the main thing, because again, when you go spread, the issue is the spread puts a lot of people on islands, right? One-on-one islands, because you're using the whole field. And that's great because they have one of the most unique one-on-one players in the league, and that's Josh Allen. With the arm strength, the running ability, you know, from the pocket, the running ability on quarterback design runs as well. But it's like there's going to be games where that one-on-one player needs help, right? You need to like have like complements to it. And so I think going in that direction with O'Cyrus Torrence. And look, they need offense. Like you said, it's a need, right? They need an interior offensive line.
Yeah, and this team's in a winning window, right? They're like close, and they're just trying to get over the top. I do think that those top two players that they drafted helped them do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is my other thing about, and this is not just a Bills thing, but you know, we talk about them in just exactly what I just said. Like, oh, they need to do this to get over the hump, blah blah blah. Dude, they're one of the freakiest endings of a game ever away from being in the Super Bowl. Like 2 years ago. They're a great team. I think there's a lot of luck involved with these type of teams, especially when you get down to divisional round, title round, Super Bowl round. So like they're a good team. They're just trying to fill these like extra needs. And again, it would help them a little bit to be a little more complimentary on offense.
So they also, you know, we'll touch on Dorian Williams a little bit. One of the few, I would say, true off-ball linebackers in this class. It was rumored that they might be in on Jack Campbell, potentially to take him at the back end of the first round. Obviously, Campbell goes a lot sooner than most of us thought he was going to go when he went 18 overall to the Detroit Lions. But then they end up getting Williams, a true off-ball linebacker type that sort of, feels weird to say replace Tremaine Edmonds because he did so much for them, but they just get a new body in there. Williams is an athletic dude. He really is. And I think that if you are playing him next to Matt Milano, who is so smart, you're freeing him up to really do the whole see-ball, get-ball thing. And I think that's what Williams does really well. Shorter, I think is a nice special teams depth wide receiver for you. Nick Broker, you're hoping, can be a nice little swing interior reserve offensive tackle and offensive guard. I think he's got a little bit of versatility to him with his background too. So also wanted to mention that they picked up DJ Dale, the defensive lineman from Alabama, as an undrafted free agent, but that's kind of it for the notable names there for Buffalo. We'll go on to the Miami Dolphins next.
The Buffalo pick here in the 7th round, Nick Broker, guard Mississippi.
Yeah. You got takes?
It is the New York Jets pick.
Okay.
And then it became the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick, and then it became the Houston Texans pick, and then it became the Philadelphia Eagles pick, and then it apparently went back to Houston, and then it became the Buffalo Bills pick. That's insane. I've never heard of this before in my life.
You're trying to travel the world. That's what you're trying to do.
It
See the great
changed
cities in the United States
5 times. And that's the insight you get here on the PFF Draft Recap Show.
They're traveled. They're very traveled.
Yeah.
All right, Miami Dolphins next. Not a team with a lot of picks here. Cam Smith at 51, the cornerback from South Carolina. They then go Devon Achane, the running back from Texas A&M in the 3rd round. Nothing in the 4th or 5th rounds. Elijah Higgins, the tight end from Stanford, and then Ryan Hayes, the offensive tackle from Michigan. I'm a little shocked that in the 2nd and 3rd round, we did not get an offensive line pick for the Miami Dolphins, although when you look at their offensive line, the depth chart, The names are fine. The guys that are there are fine. They just kind of got to play better. So I suppose.
So maybe the names aren't fine.
Well, okay. I mean, for even in their own abilities, and they'd be okay if they were able to do that. But clearly they have enough faith in that offensive line to have made these 2 picks. And I do like the selection of Cam Smith. I think he's certainly a feisty corner.
I wonder if they just got to the point where they're like, dude, this guy's still available.
Right. Was it a BPA approach?
And then it's
Cam
like
Smith?
Hard to pass up on a guy at that.
If they had a
pick.
first-round grade on Cam Smith and he makes it to 51, then all of a sudden you think about him and you go, okay, he makes a ton of sense in our cornerback room. They've got Jalen Ramsey, they've got Xavier Howard, they now have Cam Smith. Kader Kohu was fantastic as a slot player last year.
Texas A&M Commerce or something like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, he was fantastic. That secondary, it's almost like Miami's kind of doing the same thing, right? They're loading up and making sure that they're going to be ready for a playoff run. And you mentioned kind of what Buffalo's trying to do, what a lot of other teams in the NFL are trying to do. Spread you out, a lot of one-on-one matchups, great playmakers, really deep wide receiver and pass catcher rooms. You need secondary players. I've said this many times. Gone are the days when you can just go, all right, yeah, we got our top 2 corners, we're good to go. You need 3, 4 corners deep that you can have confidence going out there and covering a lot of these different pass catchers that we have in this league. So Cam Smith kind of does that for him.
Yeah, and I think we talked about, I think on Friday night, like double dipping at certain positions. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to double dip at quarterback because there's only one quarterback on the field. If you take 2 corners, that's not really double dipping because you literally need 2 corners on the field all the time. And then you can add in the slot
3,
corner.
Right?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's not even double dipping. It'll be interesting to see so they're going from what they were playing the past few years, heavy man coverage, all that stuff, to Vic Fangio, going to be a little different in terms of less press man, they're going to be less blitzing. And bringing in Jalen Ramsey is interesting because I wonder where he plays. We saw him in a similar type of defense under Brandon Staley the past, a couple of years ago, who was under Vic Fangio. So playing in the slot a little bit, I wonder where he plays. I really wonder where he plays. That to me is because now if Cam Smith comes in and he can ball out, you got all this versatility. You can play Ramsey in the slot. Maybe Ramsey makes his transition to outright safety this year. I don't think I'm ready for that, but
I don't think they need him to, but this does give them the flexibility to basically play Jalen Ramsey however they want. And maybe that was the whole point of the selection, just freeing up Jalen Ramsey. Okay, this week he's going to be more in the slot. This week he's going to be more on the outside. This week, like you said, we're going to use him deep more.
Absolutely.
And I think that is a unique approach that we don't see a lot with how you build your secondary, and I'm very curious if that's the way that Miami's going with it. They also picked Devontae Chain. It's just more of the same for Miami in a good way. I'm not saying that this is a bad selection, but it's like Raheem Mostert, one of the fastest running backs in the league, Jeff Wilson, one of the fastest running backs in the league, Devontae Chain, the fastest running back that there was to pick here in this draft. We heard rumors of maybe Miami getting aggressive, trading for a guy like Dalvin Cook, making a huge splash out of the backfield. That obviously didn't happen, so they take A-Chain here in the 3rd, and he just fits right at home, I think, at this rotation. I don't know how much usage he's going to get this year, but certainly moving forward, this can be a headliner player for them with the speed out of the backfield.
It's really interesting, no matter who the general manager is, when you have this offense, so Mike McDaniel coming from Shanahan, it's like they get into their GM's year and they're like, I need another 3rd-round running back. I need another 4th-round running back. I need it, and it has to be the fastest thing you've ever seen in your life. I'm fiending for it. They need it so badly. So it fits everything that you've seen from Shanahan and now here in Miami. This running game they do such a good job of getting the running backs clean to the 2nd level, and then it's like, well, if we can do that, what type of running back do we want? An angle eraser, right? Just a speed guy. Mostert, Devontae Chain. So I'm into it.
Yeah. Offensive line pick, obviously Ryan Hayes gives you some depth. Elijah Higgins a little bit bigger of a wide receiver, kind of in between where a wide receiver and a tight end is with his height-weight combination. And so those are clearly depth players. And not a lot you can do when you only pick 4 times. But I got to say, if they're using Cam Smith to truly maximize Jalen Ramsey, I really like what they were able to do. And I think it's a good draft, even with only 4 selections there. New England Patriots, that's the next team that I want to get to. Pulling up their draft right now. Christian Gonzalez, Steele. That slide stopped at number 17. And then go Keon White. Good Lord, I forgot how many players they picked.
Oh my God.
Marte Mapu, the safety from Sacramento State. Jake Andrews, the guard from Troy. Guard center, depending on where he's going to play. They took the kicker, one of the kickers early in the 4th round. A lot of offensive line picks after that. They end up going with a punter as well in the 6th round.
God.
Kayshon Boutte, this is the landing spot for him in the 6th. When you look at that list of names, Seth, what do you think about the Patriots draft?
How many players are going to hit wait, what's the number here? 9, 12, 13?
I can't count that quickly, but a lot.
A lot. 12. 12. That's so many picks. Look at that
12
list.
in our year.
We can't even fit them all on the page. That's insane. Look, Christian
They're
Gonzalez,
not all making the team. A lot of these guys.
Every single one of these guys. If you're watching the show, players who are drafted by the New England Patriots, you're all making the team. Look, Christian Gonzalez was a guy who a lot of people mocked in early top 10 even, like maybe a first cornerback off the board. And I think the tape is so interesting because it's like, man, you look at his body type and you look at his efficiency of movement, you look at how smooth of an athlete he is, it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I think if we're going to keep seeing the Patriots want to have players on the defense to match up with whoever they want to match up with on a weekly basis, I think they're the team that does this the most in the league, which is like, hey, yes, like some teams are like, all right, you play outside corner and like maybe you're predominantly a left corner, a right corner, boundary field, whatever it may be. And like the Patriots are like this team that says, this is a cornerback that I have, or a safety, or a linebacker. Who we're going to play a lot of man coverage. Who is the player on the opposing offense that you match up with the best? Body type to body type, play style to play style, whatever it may be. And Gonzalez is going to be another player like that because I think he can match up against most, I guess certainly bigger wide receivers sometimes. And he just gives him another, gives Belichick another tool in his tool belt.
Yeah, I think that this draft was sort of revealing of what the Patriots think of their own roster, right? Because I think if you read a lot of the work of great people who cover the Patriots closely, they talked about offensive line being a major priority for this team. And I can't remember if I was having this conversation with Sam or Steve, but they're like, when you look at the offensive line depth chart, it's actually fine. They didn't play as well as they needed to last year, but there are much worse offensive lines out there, especially at the tackle position, which a lot of people were mocking a tackle for them in the 1st round. And maybe that would have been the case if Christian Gonzalez doesn't fall, right? Maybe they go with Anton Harrison. Maybe they don't move back and take Broderick Jones. Maybe they could have still been in on tackle. But for this draft, they go tall DB, which they needed as the priority in the 1st round. They go versatile, explosive defensive lineman, a classic Patriots pick in Keon White, not saying that's a bad thing. Marte Mapu, a versatile hybrid linebacker safety player. Again, something that we have seen the Patriots gravitate towards is these guys who can move all around the defense. Yeah. And then when you get into the 4th round and beyond, if you take the kicker out, you've got center/guard, guard. Kayshon Boutte comes after that, but like they go 3 straight positional picks outside of the kicker that they're investing in the offensive line. So clearly they said, okay, we need some new players in here, but it wasn't enough for them to pick that in the first 2 rounds. So that's, to me, it was a little bit revealing of what the Patriots think of their current team, and the offensive line was not nearly as much of a priority need, as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, this is a cop-out of what I'm about to say, and I could probably say it for every team, but it's like you always wonder when a guy, I just said about the Dolphins, but it's like you always wonder when a guy who the consensus thoughts on him are way above where you are and you're picking, it's like, oh, well, I guess we'll just take him. Like, how can we pass up on Christian Gonzalez even though we're not, even though offensive line might be more of a
right.
Like, again, it's a cop-out. You can say it about every team, but.
Well, that does, the BPA kind of goes into it. Like, if you were targeting this guy at all and he's falling and you go, wow, okay, again, we can't pass it up.
And so I'm just looking it up, like Jonathan Jones, their other corner, 5'10", 190. And I don't have the Christian Gonzalez height weight in front of me, but I think it's 6'2", something like that.
Close to 6'2".
Yeah, close to 6'2".
Yeah.
So, like, and again, that's what he wants. He wants a big corner. He wants a small, fast corner. He needs the tight end eraser. He has that in Kyle Duggar. He needs the deep guy. He has that in McCourty. Like, it's a very fascinating way to put together defense, and they were really good on defense last year.
This team also picked up Malik Cunningham, the quarterback from Louisville, as an undrafted free agent. Last team in the AFC East is the New York Jets. Their draft started off with Will McDonald. Did not think that it was going to be Will McDonald to start things out, but he goes middle of the first round there. Curious to get your thoughts on that. Joe Tippmann was their pick in the second round, the offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman from Wisconsin. Nothing in the third round. Carter Warren, the offensive tackle for Pittsburgh, in the fourth. Israel Abanaconda, the running back from Pittsburgh, back-to-back Pittsburgh picks right there. Zaire Barnes, the linebacker from Penn State. I actually, they got Bernard Converse, the cornerback from LSU, but then the Zach Kuntz pick in the 7th round, I thought was an absolute steal. I don't know how a tight end this alien-like athletically lasted all the way to the 7th round, but just overall thoughts there on the Jets and kind of what happened. You know, we thought offensive tackle was going to be the pick for them in the first round. They get sniped a little bit by the Pittsburgh Steelers moving up from Broderick Jones. Are you okay with them still landing Will McDonald, or do you think this was draft night of them being a little bit too conservative?
They also kind of like quote-unquote sniped themselves by moving back those 2 picks. No, they got a Hall of Fame quarterback, so like it'll probably hopefully for them it'll work out, obviously.
Sure.
But so I think that when I watched McDonald's tape, you were like, and the nice thing about working here at PFF, as you can see it on my shirt over here.
Nice. Company man.
Is like the McDonald issue was, okay, wait a minute. What position is he's an edge rusher? We think he's an edge rusher, but when I put on the tape, when I go watch Iowa State defense, where do I see him? Not as an edge rusher very often. As an interior, 4-eye, we call them 4-eye techniques, sometimes 3, but mostly a 4-eye technique. So interior, between the tackles. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not where he's going to play for the Jets.
Yeah.
So going back to the PFF stuff, the nice thing about PFF is we have this database where you can I can filter out and just watch the edge snaps. And then when you watch the edge snaps, and again, are there as many edge snaps as other edges who got picked in this round? No, because that wasn't his position. You're like, oh, this is a good player. Mm-hmm. That's all. This is a good player with a lot of explosion, a lot of moves, can handle himself versus the run. Did I think top 15? Probably I would have said top 25 for sure. Mm-hmm. Older prospect too.
So this would have been in the top of that range, though.
Yeah, I think it's about right. I think it's about right. So I do like the player. So
I think McDonald is going to be really good for them. They kind of already have a designated pass rusher in Bryce Huff, but Huff's only on a 1-year deal. Yeah. He kind of broke out last year.
Bryce Huff, dude, pass rush win rate of
nuts.
55.
It's insane.
Half of his snaps he was getting to the quarterback.
Bryce Huff
insane.
and James Houston from Detroit were just the two designated pass rushers who it was whenever they were on the field, they were getting in the backfield no matter what. So, I wonder if there's a little bit of redundancy there. It doesn't really have to be that way because teams are always just trying to get better pass rushers no matter what. You're trying to get great pass rushers on the field. I think he's
not to mention Jermaine Johnson, who they took in the first round last year, right? So it's a lot of guys, but I think this, Robert Saleh, he's like, all right, well, I want a stud D-line. It's going to free up my linebackers to just move around and make plays, and that's how we're gonna do it.
The Will McDonald selection, objectively, I like as a player. I think he's a good football player. Yeah. I'm worried about the offensive line. I am. I'm worried about the tackle spots. And it's hard to look at the McDonald selection and say, I don't like this, because he's a good football player, and now that he's on the team, he's going to be productive for them. He's going to be good. But Dwayne Brown going to stay healthy for the full year? Is Mekhi Becton going to stay healthy for the full year? Who's in reserve behind him? Cedric Ogbuehi, Max Mitchell? If those guys go down, and remember, you're not just talking about a 17-game regular season. You traded for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You became a win-now team last week.
You got to be playing 20 games. You think these guys can play 20 games for you at offensive tackle? I don't know.
Yeah, and
it just makes me nervous. Will McDonald's a good player, but the offensive tackle.
You became a win-now team a week ago, or 5 days ago, whenever the trade was. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have a first-round pick next year, right? Because the stipulation for the Rodgers the trade will go through. Most likely, you'll give up your first-round pick. So you're win now. So the offensive line scares me. Now they took Joe Tippmann in the second or third round, if I'm not mistaken, the center. So that's great. But Aaron Rodgers needs to be protected at his age. Now, he doesn't need to be bubble wrapped. He doesn't have to have the Eagles' offensive line in front of him, but he can't have a below average offensive line. He can't make that work anymore at his age.
Right.
And that's, I think, what scares me the most.
Yeah. Moving on to the AFC North, Cincinnati Bengals. I like the Bengals draft.
I loved it.
Started off with Myles Murphy at the very top. I didn't think that Myles Murphy was going to be available there. Go with DJ Turner in the second round, Jordan Battle in the third, Charlie Jones in the fourth, Chase Brown in the fifth, Andre Yosevich in the sixth, Brad Robbins, punter love, DJ Ivory. DJ Ivory. Wait. No, it is DJ Ivory. Yeah. It is DJ Ivory.
That's my stage name, actually.
DJ Ivory?
DJ Ivy.
Oh. Ivory or did they get this mixed up because that's your stage name that we have there?
Yeah, that's why it's Ivory with an O because I'm so white.
I like this draft a lot.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit yesterday when we were going over some of the Bengals picks. It feels like a really good building draft for a team that's already in a winning window, right?
What was your evaluation of Murphy? Because he was like, I believe 5-star prospect, height, weight, speed guy.
I had him as I think he was a late first, early second round grade for me.
Oh, really? Okay. Because I think a lot of people had him as like maybe top 15 at some point.
No, I didn't have it as a top 15 because he just hasn't really figured it out yet.
He just hasn't figured it out.
And it's kind of dangerous, right? Because he's super talented of a player. You know that he's gotten a lot of opportunities to do so at Clemson, and he's still really young. So I'm not saying that he can't figure it out, but even if you gave me just what Myles Murphy is right now, that is a worthwhile rotational defensive lineman.
At pick 28, no problem.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, like, late first, early second, I'm totally okay with him because if he buds into an even better pass rusher, then, you struck gold because he is a really nice athlete for a player of his size.
You just, like, and I wonder, like, that because of all that, man, just all he needs to learn is, like, an inside move. Like, that's all he needs to learn is, like, he's got that long arm. It's his only move right now. He can try and get it, and then he just gets ridden out of the play too often. And it's like, okay, well, because everyone knows you have one move, and it's an outside move. It's like if you just had one inside move, all of a sudden, you're like a really top player in this league.
You like DJ Turner too.
I like DJ Turner too. Super fast, great feet, efficiency of movement with his feet. But blazing fast. And like you see it obviously with his 40 time, which was below 4.4, if I'm not mistaken, 4.3 something.
Right.
You really see it on tape. Like his recovery speed is tremendous. Cornerback play all about recovery, whether that's with just straight line speed to recover or with that efficiency of movement. He has both of them, so I'm really into it.
And then after those two guys, what I love the most about this draft is these are about as ready-made as you can get with non-first rounders. I mean, Jordan Battle's been starting it out in Alabama's secondary since he was a true freshman. Charlie Jones is so polished in the way that he wins. He's been unbelievable in his routes over the last year. One of the best route runners in this class. I think Chase Brown is somebody who you could plop into a running back rotation even as the front man of it, and I think that he could give you a lot of good reps even as a rookie. Andre Yosevich, I think, is a good depth wide receiver and fantastic special teamer who can contribute right away if he makes the 53-man roster. So love this draft for the Bengals. I think you have contributors at every level. When I say contributors, it's not like I think that Andre Yosevich is about to be a 1,000-yard receiver or something. But when I say contributor, he's going to contribut to this team in special teams.
I agree. Contributor, 950 yards.
Yeah, right. No, 900. Yeah,
999
right, just under. But I really liked the Bengals draft here. I want to get to the Ravens next. Before we get to that, though, got to remind people that Game Time is the app that you need to download right now to get the lowest prices on whatever tickets you're looking for. Whether it's a sporting event, a concert, comedy club, theater, whatever it is, anything that has a ticket. Get it on Game Time because they have the lowest prices guaranteed. They'll let you see your seat before you even purchase it so you know exactly what you're getting. It's just 2 clicks once you find exactly what you're looking for. Boom, boom, then you got it right on your phone. Makes it super easy to get in the event and make it a stress-free experience. Download the Game Time app. Use the promo code PFF to get yourself $20 off whatever your first purchase is. Game Time app, PFF, $20 off. Baltimore Ravens staying in the AFC North. First round, Zay Flowers. Second round, nothing. This was a team that didn't have a lot of draft picks. Trenton Simpson, the linebacker from Clemson in the third round. Tavius Robinson, the edge rusher from Ole Miss. Kaidu Kelly. Is he?
Yeah. Most Canadians ever drafted. 5.
I don't know how to say the Oregon offensive tackle's name. That one's on me. That one's on me.
I don't even know how to say Zay Flowers, so like we're good.
You did great right there.
And
then Andrew Voorhees in the 7th round. I really like that pick as a late round steal, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, I'll just start there. Like, clearly a very good guard. Clearly a very good guard who was not a 7th round pick, but the injury issue.
You know what was crazy though? When I was watching Voorhees, I always felt like he was just a mid-round guard. I just felt like he was a power player.
Yeah.
If you are in a power rushing offense, this is the dude that you want in the middle. Incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Played for USC and started for USC for many years. Multi-year starter. When I looked at Voorhees, I was like, this is exactly what he is. And I always felt like he should be a mid-round pick. And I don't know. He was this forgotten man on the interior offensive line. Even before the ACL tear, it felt like he was going somewhere in the 6th round. I'm like, man, if he ends up going in the 6th round, some team that runs a power style is getting a really nice player.
This is the question, though. What are the Ravens next year?
I don't know. You tell me. You're the scheme guy.
I don't have Todd Monken on speed dial. Okay, so I don't know your boy. Todd
They're going to run a lot of tight ends.
So I think that's the main thing. Is like there is a chance we see a complete shift away from what they've been doing under Greg Roman, where you might not see Patrick Ricard on the field anymore. Like for as many snaps. I mean, he was on the field for like the whole games on offense for the Ravens. So I just don't know what this offense is going to look like. But on Thursday afternoon, they re-signed Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. So that's already makes your Thursday an A+. And then you take a receiver for him. They took Rashad Bateman in the 1st round a couple years ago. Now it's Zay Flowers. They signed Odell Beckham.
Yep.
Remains to be seen what Odell Beckham still has in the tank after the ACL not playing for a year. Mm-hmm. But Zay Flowers is speed and speed and speed.
Yeah, he's a dynamic player.
But yeah, and I think the fun thing about Zay, and it's like because of how bad the quarterback play was at Boston College, he was put into bad situations in terms of ball location, and he made plays. Like he's not a big guy. We know this whole draft class of receivers are not big players.
Yep.
But he made plays at the catch point because he had no choice. He was the only receiver they had.
Right.
Ball location was horrible from their quarterbacks, and he just made a bunch of plays. So I think he's more well-rounded than just deep threat. But they definitely need that, right? Like this is they signed Deshaun Jackson last year in the middle of the season, so they need this type of player.
They did, no doubt about it. And Zay, to me, I had him as wide receiver 3 in this class, right behind Quentin Johnson and Jack Smith-Njigba. But something that Zay, I think, brought to the table that none of these other receivers did is he has this incredible ability to continue to accelerate while changing direction. You know, obviously not necessarily if you're changing direction going from north to south or trying to hit a comeback, but when he is getting up the field, hitting a little double move or a little shake or even like an inside out, it's like he doesn't have to slow down. It's a really unique athletic ability that Zay Flowers has that I think really allows him to stand out within this wide receiver class. So they definitely got more dynamic there. Got speed at the linebacker position with Trenton Simpson. I wonder if Simpson being drafted means that Patrick Queen might not be on the Ravens much longer.
I hope for Patrick Queen that this whole Roquan Smith thing, as in trading for Roquan Smith and like the defense kind of gelling so much better the second half of the season. I hope that's good I hope that helps just Patrick just like figure it out.
I mean, he's just going to be the speed guy, right? I mean, he's like what Devin White is in Tampa Bay. Levante David's the guy next to him who handles a lot of the heavy.
I always thought this was interesting because you have Patrick Queen and Devin White played basically the same position at LSU and potentially both overdrafted based on straight line speed to a certain degree. So I don't know.
Yeah, it is very. I like Tavius Robinson as well. Bigger, longer, depth edge rusher. Can be a 3-4 outside linebacker for you. Kai Blue Kelly gives you some depth in the secondary. So I like this draft from Baltimore. It's kind of a little bit of a telling draft. They needed to get faster, but I wonder what happens from Patrick Queen. Also wanted to mention that they signed Dante Demas, the wide receiver from Maryland, as an undrafted free agent. Also, Keaton Mitchell, a player who I do not think should have gone undrafted. The running back from ECU, one of my favorite playmakers in this class. So like Keaton Mitchell a lot, like that fit there. let's get to one of my favorite drafts in this entire class, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. My goodness. We mentioned when we talked about the Jets, they moved up right in front of New York to take Broderick Jones. Second round, it was Joey Porter Jr. and Keanu Benton. Darnell Washington lasted all the way to the third round, and they sniped him. Nick Herbig, Corey Trice, Spencer Anderson. This is an A-plus to me, Seth. This is an A-plus draft. They not only hit their needs with some of the best talent in this draft, they also were the teams that were opportunistic on the players that slid. The players that might have been a little bit of tweeners, that maybe a little bit higher on some boards than others. Darnell Washington at 93 is insane. Nick Herbig, even for him being, okay, is he an off-ball linebacker? Can you play him at edge? Getting him at 132, he's too good of a football player to last until 132. Same can be said with Corey Trice. Corey Trice has to have some sort of injury, something medically that was flagged in the pre-draft process, because this dude's tape's way too good for him to be picked in the 7th round. Yeah, the Steelers are taking the chance, and it's a fantastic chance to take. This might be my favorite draft of any draft, but what did you think about the Steelers?
No, I also had A+ for sure, 100%. Love that. I think Joey Porter was probably, a lot of people thought of him as like cornerback 1, maybe cornerback 2, something like that. I think this is probably closer to where he is. I think there's still a lot of stuff to work on, but the upside for Joey Porter Jr. is insane, because you don't find that type of arm length alone in cornerbacks very often, right? It's 100th percentile arm length. And he has a trait, he has a play style that can work early while he figures out the rest. Which is like, I'm going to press you. I can stand on the 5-yard line, you can stand on the goal line, and I can still press you. That's how long my arms are. So I think that's a great pick for them. He'll figure it out. He's got some balance issues, footwork issues that I saw. Benton, plug and play. I think so, right?
Yes.
Ben just put him in, first down.
Put him next to Cam Hayward. You got
no
TJ
problem.
Watt next to him, Alex Highsmith next to him. We're good.
Are good.
We're ready to roll.
Darnell Washington,
I had him as top 20 player of the class.
Yeah, that's the
and
thing.
I was high on him, but like 93, dude.
How many first-round players do people see in this top 4? It's like 3 for sure, I think. Jones, okay, first-round player, he was picked in the first round. Joey Porter Jr., pick 32, basically, you know what I mean? A lot of people saw him as a first-round player. You just said you saw Darnell Washington as a first-round player.
Some people would sneak Keanu Benton into there.
Some people would
sneak,
exactly, right?
You're getting 4 potential, even fringe, first, second round type of players on various big boards in the first 3 rounds of the draft. That's insane to me.
And the Porter pick is almost like, hate to kind of say it, but it's kind of a free pick, because that's the Claypool trade.
Right.
And it's like, as much as like Chase Claypool, another Canadian, it's just like you didn't need him, right? It was like, it wasn't working out, so like, and you just got a free second-round pick, and you just made it Joey Porter Jr., so.
Cleveland Browns, the last team in the AFC North here that we're going to go over. Cedric Tillman, their first selection in the 3rd round. So this team didn't pick until the 3rd round, but a lot of notable names in this entire draft class. So Tennessee wide receiver is their first selection. Siaki Ika, the defensive tackle from Baylor, also in the 3rd round. 4th round picks, we got 2 of them. DeJuan Jones finally going off the board outside of the top 100. The Ohio State offensive tackle. Isaiah McGuire, the edge rusher from Missouri. 2 5th round picks as well. DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the quarterback from UCLA, and Cameron Mitchell, the corner from Northwestern. Finally in the 6th round, another guy that slid a lot yesterday. Luke Whippler, the center from Ohio State. Those are a lot of very common names in pre-draft conversations that we have there, but with the Browns not picking until the 3rd round, I thought they did a great job. Clearly, they're just taking some big swings at the bat, right? Okay, why did DeJuan Jones fall? We're still taking him. Why did Luke Whippler fall? We're still taking him. But why not, I suppose? It's one of the better rosters in the NFL right now, and you're trying to really bounce back, become a playoff team, a division contender next year, and they're trying to get the best talent they possibly can. What'd you think?
Yeah, I think this was as good as they could do at time, filling a need. Like, the thing with Siaki Ika is, like, he could come in and, just like we talked about with Keanu Benton, it's like, put him in first down. Like, if the season started tomorrow, no practices, put him in first down to stop the run. No tackle, that's it. So, like, to me, plug and play right away when you get it in the 3rd round is great. Cedric Tillman, I think a lot of people thought of him as a better prospect than his Biletnikoff winner teammate in Jalen Hyatt. I think I was pretty much there as well, so
Yeah.
that's a good pick for them. Not that Hyatt went so much higher than them. I think it was only like 2 or 3 picks higher, something like that. But so yeah, I think it's a good draft. They needed help on the defensive line. We've just been saying this for years, and hopefully they got it with Siaki.
I did like this draft. I agree with you. I think that this is about as good as the Browns could have done. I think that they got the right kind of wide receiver in Cedric Tillman. Siaki Ika, man, I really didn't like this past year's tape. I liked last year or the year before's a decent amount. This past year, I was not nearly as big of a fan of. DeJuan Jones, who knows, right? Maybe you have a starting caliber offensive tackle at one point, but how does a player that big who comes from Ohio State there were some people in the pre-draft process who said, I like DeJuan Jones' tape better than I like Paris Johnson Jr.'s tape. And Paris Johnson Jr. goes 6th overall. DeJuan Jones goes 111. There's something there. Isaiah McGuire, I like him as a versatile defensive lineman, good edge player. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I like as a backup QB, especially for the QB room that I think that they're building there. And then Cam Mitchell, man, getting reunited with one of his good friends from college, Greg Newsome, both coming from Northwestern. I think Cam Mitchell's really good. I like the ability of him to stop and start. I like how he can turn the hips. I feel like he's a really nice cover corner, man. He's a little bit smaller, so you probably can't use him in press coverage too much, but keep him in off. Let him look at the quarterback. He's super smart. I love the movement skills. For them to get him as late as he went in this draft, I really like it a lot from Cleveland. Let's go to the AFC South now. A lot of new quarterbacks in the AFC South, but we'll start with the team that didn't pick a quarterback high in this past draft. We'll start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got Anton Harrison at the back end of the first round, a little bit of a trade back there, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma, and they might need him with Cam Robinson suspension looming. A lot of picks there. We're not going to read them all. Brenton Strange goes after that, the tight end from Penn State. Tank Bigsby, the running back from Auburn. Ventrell Miller, linebacker from Florida. Tyler Lacey, the edge rusher from Oklahoma State. Yasir Abdullah, the edge rusher from Louisville. Antonio Johnson finally going off the board in the 5th round, the safety/nickel corner from Texas A&M. My boy Parker Washington, the wide receiver from Penn State, going in the 6th round, so on and so forth. Who from that list do you want to start with?
Anton Harrison, obviously a really good player. And so funny to think, not funny, but interesting to think about. I don't know when they knew about the Cam Robinson suspension. Obviously, they knew about it longer than we knew about it.
Right.
So this might have been on their cards for a long time. But for us outside the building, it's like you didn't think they would need to go tackle. And all of a sudden, it's like 3 days ago or 4 days ago, whenever it was. It's like, oh my God. They need to tackle right now because you already lost Jawan Taylor. Now you're going to lose your 2 starting tackles. Like the 2 starting tackles from last season, Taylor and Cam Robinson, not your starting tackles anymore. They do like Walker Little, I understand that, but it's like, oh my God, we have to protect our baby, Trevor Lawrence. So like, yeah, they have to coddle him, and they're coddling him with Anton Harrison
In a good way.
In a good way.
No, I like Anton Harrison a lot. I thought that he was a first-round pick, kind of offensive tackle. A lot of people talked about the big 4 offensive tackles with Darnell Wright, Paris Johnson Jr., Broderick Jones, and then Peter Skoronski. I felt like it was more of a big 5. I had Anton Harrison a little bit lower than those guys, but I felt like he was within the same tier of those players that you would take in the first round. So I like that the Jags ended up with him. I think that he can start for you quickly if needed, and I think that's important.
No choice right now.
Well, right, and he is very experienced. Not that you totally make a draft pick for a short-term outlook like this, but he is somebody who has started at left tackle at Oklahoma for 3 years. Yeah. So playing the position is very natural to him. He's just done it for a long time.
And I think that's why a guy like Broderick Jones goes higher, because I think it's last year was his first year starting, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So you look at that upside and you're like, oh, there's so much more to do. Even though you can make the argument, that the tape is better from Anton Harrison than Broderick Jones, but you want to make that argument. You want to make that pick based on upside if you're the Steelers, and then Anton Harrison falls to them at 27, and I think they just like were okay with trading back, but then you get there, and you take the good player.
Didn't love the Brenton Strange pick.
It's out of nowhere.
With the other tight ends on the board, that one was He's going to be a receiving tight end for him, and I clearly believe in him a lot. But Brandon Strange in the second round, that was a reach for me. Tank
Evan Ingram on a franchise tag right now.
Going after tight end, I think totally was something that was on the radar. But Strange in the second over even the tight ends that were available, I wasn't the biggest fan of that. Tank Bigsby, I was. He's RB2 now behind Travis Etienne, I think, and I really like that combo of those two guys. Ventrell Miller, more of a special teams guy. Tyler Lacey, a depth. Defensive lineman, same thing with Yashir Abdullah, but those are nice guys to get. The Antonio Johnson one is the pick that could make all the difference in the world for this draft class, because Brian Branch was a target for the Jags in the first round.
He was mocked to the Jags
a lot because it made a lot of sense, right? You can put him in the slot. He can immediately be your nickel defender, and you can move Darius Williams, who's much more comfortable, much more effective on the outside, to the outside. Then it's him and Tyson Campbell.
It's not bad.
On the outside, and you would have had Brian Branch in the middle. They don't do that. They wait a lot longer, and Antonio Johnson falls in their lap. And Antonio Johnson was seen as option number 2 if you didn't get Brian Branch for that kind of role in this class. So getting him in the 5th round, he's a major value for him. And then I love Parker Washington as well. He's just one of my guys. So I think that this is the pick, to me, that can really change how people are going to view the Jags draft. I hope Parker Washington gets on the field. He's so good. I like Parker Washington a lot. Good hands catcher, contested catch machine. Good football player to get that late in the draft.
Yeah.
Folks, people over at Fabric by Gerber Life, they're making life insurance very easy for you. Straightforward, affordable, right there on an easy-to-view online hub. Right on their website. Meetfabric.com. That's meetfabric.com/PFF. They'll have a 10-minute quiz for you to take where you can see exactly what type of life insurance is best for you and your family situation right now. So it's personalized just to you guys. It's made by parents for parents, so you know that it's affordable. It's very straightforward. It's exactly what you need when you're looking for it. Everybody thinks life insurance can be daunting, confusing. Not with Fabric and Gerber Life. They've got you covered. Check them out. Go to meetfabric.com/PFF. That is meetfabric.com/PFF for life insurance and other investment solutions for you and your family. Let's get to the Indianapolis Colts. Making a big splash in a big way. Finally getting a young quarterback to invest in Anthony Richardson at number 4 overall. A lot of picks from the Colts in this draft. Julius Brents going in the 2nd round. I know a lot of people like him. Josh Downs, the wide receiver from North Carolina, lasted until the 3rd round. So shocked about that. Didn't love the Blake Freeland pick in the 4th round, but getting Adetomiwa Adebawore from Northwestern right after that. It's awesome. Darius Rush, Daniel Scott, 2 great secondary players I think that you were adding in the 5th who have major upside for where you would normally take day 3 players. Will Mallory, a nice move tight end for you, so on and so forth. Jalen Jones, the cornerback from Texas A&M, I think is a good bet to make as a 7th rounder as well. Seth, what did you think about this class overall, with Anthony Richardson being the pick at number 4, and then any of the guys who are behind him?
Yeah, Richardson has whatever you want to say about the tape, and can he read defenses, can he throw the ball accurately, blah, blah, blah. He has the profile of someone who if he hits, is a elite quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the main thing that we have to talk about now. It's not about, we talked about this a bit yesterday with Mac Jones getting picked 15th overall. If Mac Jones hits, he's a good quarterback in the league. And that's it. If Anthony Richardson hits, he's an elite quarterback in the league in terms of process.
And that's it.
And that's it. And that's it.
but a different inflection of saying that's it.
That's exactly. So that's why I think I'm okay with this. Again, are you watching the tape and seeing this unbelievable, quote unquote quarterback? No, but no one knows how to evaluate college to pro quarterbacks in terms of decision making and stuff like that, because offenses are so drastically different. Defenses are so drastically different in terms of disguise, in terms of making you think as a quarterback. So if they go into this and say, my check boxes are really, all right, height, weight, speed, mm-hmm. playmaking ability in and outside the pocket, so being able to escape rushers, not taking sacks. I think let's boil it down to not taking sacks. I think that's super important. And then the off-field, whatever test you want to use. I don't know if it's the Wonderlic, or definitely not the Wonderlic, but or the S2 test, or whatever. Just talking to the guy, whatever it is, an interview test. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like he can learn? Do you feel like the processing can be put up to speed at the NFL level? Then you'll figure out the rest. Then you'll just give him time to simmer, right? So that's the way I've changed my mind on how to look at quarterbacks, because I've been so wrong all the time. Maybe I'm wrong again.
No, you're not.
But this is the process that I would take. It's just like, I get, like, I love watching quarterbacks on film. I love watching them make what I would say good decisions. But what do I know? So avoid sacks, height, weight, speed, cognitive ability.
Right. I'm excited for it, man. Yeah. I really am. Him getting to work with Shane Steichen, I think is going to be great as well, what he was able to do with Jalen Hurts. And every time I say that, I want to make sure it's like I'm not taking away anything from Jalen Hurts, but Steichen watched what Hurts was able to do.
The biggest difference, so let's say you just say, okay, we're going to run the Eagles offense in Indianapolis, and you have a quarterback who can run and can make plays, and you can design some nice quarterback runs for him like they did, all the zone read stuff they were doing in Philly. It's just like O-line difference. The reason why the Colts are picking this high is, yes, Matt Ryan being maybe at the O-line, though.
It's the O-line.
But it's the O-line.
Yeah.
So, like, yes. And okay, so again, this goes back to the same thing. Which do you want to put C.J. Stroud? Now, they didn't have a chance to take C.J. Stroud. Maybe they could have traded up. But do you want to put C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson early in his career behind this offensive line of the Colts?
Anthony Richardson. Yeah, 100%.
Because he can just stay alive enough to get to year 3.
Right.
Where it's like, I don't know if you can with Stroud. Now, if Stroud comes in and he's like a freaking genius, then yeah, no problem, obviously. But that's the thing that we can never pick. We can never get right about quarterbacks is who's the genius, right? Who's going to be like?
Well, that's why Bryce goes number 1.
Because we think he's the genius.
He's the closest to it.
But the thing that I guess we'll talk about Bryce more. But the thing with Bryce is he also is the avoid sack player.
Oh yeah. So
definitely. That's the other thing. So yeah. Indianapolis Colts.
Good pick, Anthony Richardson.
Love it.
Yeah. So they also got a lot of other potential starters. Like I think Josh Downs could be an immediate slot stud for him. I really do. I think that position is wide open with Paris Campbell getting out of there. I know they have Isaiah McKenzie, but I think Josh Downs can earn that role. I think Julius Brents and Darius Rush could be potential starters for them at some point. Maybe not both of them this year, obviously, because they got Isaiah Rodgers, but down the line, these are guys who could absolutely start for him. Adetomiwa Adebawore, I think, could be, at the very least, a fantastic rotational player at a variety of different spots along their defensive line. I didn't love the Blake Freeland pick. I don't think he's an NFL starter, but they clearly just want to bet on the athleticism. Will Mallory's going to help you in the passing game. Daniel Scott's really great depth for you. So, A. I think the Colts got an A. We're not giving grades necessarily on the show, but I think that they got an A. What about the Houston Texans? This one's a tough one.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to say tough because I don't really think it's tough, but tricky might be the better word because on paper they come away with C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. Fantastic. Juice Scruggs after that, Tank Dell, Dylan Horton, Henry To'oTo'o, Jared Patterson, Xavier Hutchinson. I like a lot of the names that they brought into the league.
Me too.
So I think at the very worst, I'm probably going to give this like a B. Yeah. The way that they went about getting Will Anderson.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. You're giving up.
You're
giving
saying
up a
that
first
this
and a
guy
third
is a
next year.
generational
Correct.
edge rusher.
Correct. Because unfortunately, that is how you have to look at it. They did not just take Will Anderson at number 3 overall.
Yes, exactly.
They took Will Anderson.
And they gave up the number 1 overall pick next year for him.
They took Will Anderson with probably a top 5 pick in 2024 and a 3rd round pick, which is now going to be an early 3rd round pick, I believe. It's the Texans' 3rd round pick.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's just, I can't give this draft an A.
No,
you came away with good football players. I can't give it an A. They went in on a draft class that was seen as a lot lower. And I know some people might counter that and say, like, okay, well then go and get the good guys. They did. The price is next year's class. They still have a 1st round pick in next year's class. They noticed that as well. I know.
Yeah, I think that's why.
It's totally
and you're hoping,
abandoned.
and in their heads, they're like, I kind of hope Deshaun Watson sucks again. And
but he could have been 2 first-round picks.
I know.
So,
What's your like scouting evaluation of Will Anderson?
I like Will Anderson a lot. I think he won.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
That I like him a lot?
No, this is like, if you're going to trade up all the way from 12
yeah,
to
that he's
3,
not Nick Bosa.
And I asked you what your scouting opinion of him is, it has to be.
He's elite.
It's Myles Garrett.
Yeah, he's not Myles Garrett. He's not Nick Bosa. Yeah. He's not any of those guys. He's just not.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Because
I like the player. The player is good. The player is amazing.
But look, it's hard to be super tough on Anderson because he's been unbelievably productive over the last 2 years. Did Anderson win primarily off athleticism the last 2 years? Yeah, he kind of did. He won off of athletic ability over the last 2 years. He still doesn't know what he's doing from a pass rush profile yet. He's not that kind of player. But that doesn't mean that he can't be that player.
For sure.
Is he going to bend like Von Miller? No. But can he be an incredibly productive player in the NFL? Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Trading up the first-round pick, taking him at 3. That's the issue I have for this type of player.
You know I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know I agree with you.
Because you see it, and like for his size, his profile is kind of crazy. Like guys that size with that type of production aren't supposed to. That doesn't really add up often. You know, Myles Garrett is like a big human being.
Oh,
you know what
yeah,
I mean? Like,
sure.
You know, he's explosive for his size, and like you said, if he develops some more pass rushing acumen, because I think he can get caught up in offensive tackles too much, and then the pass rush kind of ends.
Yeah.
Where it's like you see guys like always trying to move, always trying to disengage and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
I look at what Nick Caserio said, where he jokingly, I think, gave out the quote where he's like, I'm not leaving from Wolf of Wall Street unless I was totally duped, and he never actually said that, and I just read it on Twitter, which could be the case. But he kind of operated as like, no, I have all this job security. I think if you had all this job security, you're not making this trade. That's my opinion. I think that he felt like he needed to make a splash. But anyways, I like the rest of the class. Do you like CJ as a second overall pick?
Well, this is my thing with CJ, where it's like I'm trying not to be bamboozled by college tape. Because you put on the tape and it's like, oh, look at that throw, look at that throw, and look at that throw, look at that accuracy, look at that tight window throw, and whatever. And it's like, I'm just trying my best not to get bamboozled and just stick to my new process, which I developed 4 days ago.
Yeah, no sacks.
No what?
Don't take sacks.
Oh, I heard something else.
Abstinence.
This virginity is number 1 on the
turnover
on the
worthy
thing.
play ratio.
Yeah. So just stuff like that. Like I'm just because it happened with Justin Fields, where I'm like, oh wow, look at Justin Fields, like look at him make this throw and that throw and that throw, and then you go from the Ohio State tape to the Chicago Bears passing tape, and it's like, oh, that's not good. It's like really bad. So I'm not saying he's going to be as bad as Fields is right now as a passer. Obviously, Fields gives you a lot of other stuff.
So what you're saying is you never draft an Ohio State quarterback, right? You're that guy.
I'm the never draft. I'm the never draft a quarterback who plays with other 5-star receivers early.
Yeah,
that's unless he's a playmaker.
Like if you have a really good sophomore year, what you want them to do is transfer to like
Miami of Ohio.
Yeah, caught a stray there, but yeah, and then just go dominate.
Go dominate. If you can do that,
then you are number 1 on Seth's big board.
Yeah,
no, I agree with you. If we're going a little bit further down, the Juice Scruggs pick was fine, a little bit of a reach. Love Tank Dell there. I think the Tank Dell can be a good playmaker for them. If Tank Dell was even 2 inches taller and 15 pounds heavier, we're talking about a fringe first-round pick. Like we're probably talking about him in the same breath that we're talking about
separator.
Zay Flowers, right? And where he got picked.
Yes.
So, like Dylan Horton too, that was fine. Henry Cho'oto is a nice, smart linebacker that I think D'Amico Ryan's going to like. Jared Patterson's a nice depth interior offensive lineman. But let's move on to the Titans. Titans take Peter Skoronski at number 11. They had the opportunity to take Will Levis at number 11. They don't. They trade up and instead take Will Levis at the top of the second round. With the second pick on day 2 at number 33. They go Tajay Spears in the 3rd round, Josh Wiley from Cincinnati, Jalen Duncan, Colton Dowell, wide receiver from Tennessee Martin to round it all out. Thoughts on Levis? That's where we're going to start.
Yeah, Levis is an interesting player because he doesn't fit the profile that I'm talking about here of avoiding sacks. He kind of can get crunched in the pocket a little bit. My one counter to that is that he's such a quick release that he can get out of sacks kind of that way. And I think that this is the offense. Like when this offense has clicked over the past, 5 years, like the Tannehill Titans offense, balls out.
Quick.
1, 2, 3, balls out. 1, 2, 3, balls out. And that's the type of player that Will Levis could be. I comped him to like he's like an advanced Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh.
And
all right,
maybe you can add in hopefully an advanced Ryan Tannehill. Just guys who have like really maxed out their technical ability in terms of throwing the football and throwing on time. And if you're getting an advanced Garoppolo, that's a pretty good pick. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's a pretty good pick, especially in the second round.
I like this draft from the Titans.
Yeah.
I really did. I think Peter Skoronski's going to be fantastic for him. I think he was one of the top 5 players in this class, whether you viewed him as an interior player or an offensive tackle. I think they'll probably give him a chance at offensive tackle. He might end up at guard, but I think he got an all-pro guard. I really do. So I like the football player that they got at 11. I like Will Levis at the top of the second round. I really do. I think it's a good bet for him, and I like the fit in Tennessee for the reasons that you were kind of naming there. Tajay Spears as one of the top 5 backs in this class. I mean, he's such a interesting complement to Derrick Henry, but just because of the size, it's going to be funny watching these guys just stand next to each other. But, man, nobody better in this class with that one-cut ability. So I do think that the Titans ended up helping themselves a lot. Jalen Duncan's a nice athletic offensive tackle that I'm glad doesn't have to start right away, at least in theory, we think. And then more tight ends to load up on the offense with the inline plays. Good draft.
2 thumbs up.
It's a good draft. This draft recap show sponsored by our friends over at Underdog and the largest fantasy football tournament out there. It's Best Ball Mania 4. If you don't know what Best Ball is, very simple. You just enter Best Ball Mania 4 on Underdog's slick mobile app. You draft your team, and that is it. Yep, you just set it and forget it. As Underdog optimizes your lineup every single week to create the highest scoring one possible. Best Ball Mania 4 is your shot to win a first-place prize of up to $3 million. Get signed up today on UnderdogFantasy.com or via the App Store with the promo code PFF, and we'll get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Underdog Fantasy, promo code PFF, and we already got some of the ADPs on some of these rookie wide receivers. And I got to tell you guys, Jordan Addison being wide receiver 46, you got to get that up. I mean, Jordan Addison has a chance to just step in and be wide receiver 2 for this team. We know that Justin Jefferson is going to get all the attention, but wide receiver 46, that's too low in my opinion. I'm also very intrigued by Jalen Hyatt as wide receiver 62. I think they're going to feed the speed, man. I think they look at Daniel Jones and like, hey, we got a vertical stretch player now. Go attack it. Give him the ball. They're going to design stuff for him, so I think that he might be a little bit boom or bust, but the boom is going to be worth it for you, especially in a best ball format. So those are 2 players that I like. Head over to Underdog Fantasy. You guys can draft your team getting into the best ball tournament. Let's finish things out quickly here with the AFC West. We will start with the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll go Chiefs. Felix Anudike-Uzomah was their selection at the back end of the first round. They then go Rashee Rice in the second round. Wanya Morris, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma, in the third. Jamari Conner, the safety from Virginia Tech. B.J. Thompson, pass rusher from Stephen F. Austin. Keandre Coburn from Texas. Man, nice pick there in the 6th round. I really like that one. Nick Jones, feisty corner. Big fan of him in the 7th round as well. I like those 6th and 7th round picks. Probably depth players, special teamers, maybe practice squad guys to start their careers, but I like them. Anyways, what do you like about this class, Seth?
Well, I mean, I loved Felix Anudike-Uzomah.
Yeah.
Loved his
You're a
tape.
big fan.
Huge fan. He's got a ton of moves, explosion off the line of scrimmage, great first step. I thought he was really good. Some people were telling me not great against the run. I saw him be pretty good against the run, so I like that. And then I think, Rashee Rice is a good receiver. I like that they're just going to keep, it seems like, they took Sky Moore in the 2nd round last year, maybe 3rd round.
2nd, I think.
I think you just keep throwing darts at receiver.
Sure, why not?
Because you can afford it with the quarterback you have and the tight end. Because even though Travis Kelce's a tight end, he's really wide receiver 1 for them, right? So now he's not going to be around forever. I understand that, but I think you just keep throwing darts and hopefully one of them becomes becomes an A-plus receiver.
Yeah, I think that Onudike Ozama is a regular contributor for them early on. Rashee Rice, I agree. You just take a bet at a wide receiver. Rashee's interesting because, like I was talking about with Sam Monson, he basically has to completely retool how he views himself as a wide receiver because he's 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, and he plays like he's 6'4", 220. And that worked at his level of competition in college. He was somebody who was constantly seeking contact, was trying to box guys out at the catch point, was just trying to play this big receiver's game. It's not going to work at the NFL. He's going to get bodies. He's not going to win at the catch point as much. We saw that in his Cincinnati tape when SMU played Cincinnati. So he's got to retool how he looks at the position and what he's good at because he's actually an explosive receiver, and maybe they'll get a good one there. Wanya Morris, I think, is just offensive tackle. Insurance with a lot of offensive tackle change around him, and then, like I said, I like the depth guys too. Let's move on to the TCU Chargers, or the Los Angeles Chargers, who started things off with wide receiver Quentin Johnston in the first round. They got Tuli Tuipulotu from USC, the edge rusher, in the second round, Diane Henley in the third, Darius Davis from TCU in the fourth round, Jordan McFadden, tackle from Clemson in the fifth, Scott Matlock, the defensive lineman from Boise State, and then Max Duggan, the quarterback from TCU. 3 TCU players from that TCU offense going to the Los Angeles Chargers. What do you think of this draft, Seth?
Quentin Johnston is a very good pick for them if he's the receiver that we think he's going to be, because he's not Mike Williams. He's not a contested catch guy. He's almost like a smaller receiver in a big receiver's body to a certain degree, because he's a lot quicker than I think people will give him credit for when you see his body type, because you just assume contested catch guy. He's not that. In fact, he's not a catch guy at all. That's a whole other story. But actually, super quick off the line of scrimmage. Got pretty good route running acumen, I would say, and then the yards after catch, which is something they just don't have. They just have not had that in at least like the Justin Herbert era. And I think that's the way to go. I mean, you're running this guy on like that drag screen against Michigan. He's taking it to the house. You see all sorts of plays like that. So I think it complements them. Even though now you have 3 big body receivers in Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Quentin Johnston going into next season, but 3 completely different types of players. So I'm into it.
The TCU connection is kind of funny, but
and only because it's even funnier. Someone brought this up yesterday. It was only funnier because TCU played in their stadium
for the national championship. Got their ass whooped.
Yeah, so like Telesco, as I was saying yesterday, like Telesco was like just doing some like busy work in his office, and then he like peers over, and it's like.
Sees like one Quentin Johnston catch amidst the ass whooping that was Georgia.
Exactly.
He's taking it to him.
I've never seen that team before in my life. And he does a study on like Texas Christian University. He's like, I love these guys. Love it.
I do like this draft though. All jokes aside, this is one of my favorite drafts because I think that they got a good wide receiver in this class in Quentin Johnston. They didn't reach for a Jalen Hyatt or something like that. I am somebody who thinks that there's more consistency in the tank and even more to get out of that athleticism from him than what we saw at the college level. I like the depth of getting Tuipulotu in there. I don't know if he's ever going to be a starter at the NFL level, but that lack of rotation, I should say, really showed up for the Chargers last year when Bosa was hurt.
Because they tried so many different guys.
Yeah, and
all through the defensive line, and nothing worked.
So I love that for them. I think that he could be a steady contributor for him, or a guy who could fill in if somebody goes down. Diane Henley gets him some athleticism there in the middle of their defense. A guy who used to play safety, actually used to play wide receiver as well. So ton of speed there with Henley, getting him in the third round. I like that selection as well. And then a little bit further down, I think that the tackle depth, the defensive line depth, those are the right bets to make in the 5th and 6th round. So I think a lot of this hinges on their first 3 picks, but I think they nailed their first 3 picks. I think that's going to be a good contributing rotation for them. Let's go to the Raiders. Raiders next from this group. Tyree Wilson at number 7 overall, the defensive end from Texas Tech. Michael Mayer from Notre Dame goes in the 2nd round, a lot later than people thought he was going to go. Byron Young, the defensive lineman from Alabama, because there's multiple Byron Youngs. We'll get to that in a bit. Trey Tucker from Cincinnati, Jacorian Bennett, cornerback from Maryland, Aiden O'Connell, quarterback for Purdue, Chris Smith, safety from Georgia, Amari Burney, linebacker from Florida, Jade Silvera, the defensive tackle from Arizona State. How do we feel about this one? Raiders kind of needed to nail it. Did they nail it?
I think it's close. I think it's pretty close. It obviously depends how you feel about Tyree Wilson.
I don't love him.
It's tough. It's a tough evaluation.
Because
he's an older prospect. You're like wondering why.
Because people rank him really high, and then he doesn't have the tape of somebody that you should rank really high. That's why it makes it really tough.
That's the analysis you get here on the PFF Draft Show. Insanely large frame.
Yes.
Movement skills for his size. But like you said, nice. the late bloomer. Attacks blocks with no plan, but he's so much bigger than everyone else that it worked.
But it worked in college.
I know. But he did. I will say the one thing is it worked. Like, you're like, oh, here's a guy who is like whatever his frame is, 6'7", whatever.
He's big.
Going against an NC State tackle or like an FCS tackle or a Gerber 5 tackle. And it looks like what should happen, which is domination this past year, right? There's throwing guys around. No one could block him. But yeah, why didn't that happen before? Now, the height thing, like, he's never going to be a guy who can, like, long arm and get under guys' pads because he's so much taller than everyone else. So, like, I get that's going to be an issue. But
I gave him a second-round grade.
Whoa.
Yeah. I gave him a second-round grade.
So you did not like this pick then?
No, well, I wasn't the biggest fan, but I also understood that he was going to go early. The NFL is way higher on him than a lot of people that I know were way higher on him than I was. But I thought he was a second-round player. I think he's a good player, but taking him top 10 to me is asking for things that we didn't see on tape.
For sure.
And that's what the 1 year wonder thing really was tough for me. A lot of people say, like, oh, he plays so violent, and he does at times, not always. Sometimes he's the last guy out of his stance. Sometimes he's a little bit softer into contact than he was on the previous rep, and I'm not sure exactly why that was. So I don't want to sit here and kill Tyree Wilson because his flash play is fantastic. Yeah. Like you said, the athletic ability with how big he is, it's a bitch to block. It is, especially when he can hit the gap on you early and get in between the tackle and the guard. Sometimes these guys are just hanging on for dear life as he's getting into the backfield. And obviously, if he gets one arm free, his frame is so long, you're getting it all the way into the quarterback. All of that is advantageous. I just didn't see it consistently. And I didn't know if there wasn't enough signs to tell me I was going to get this consistently at the NFL level, jumping from the Big 12. So I got my concerns. I know a lot of people are a lot higher on him. Clearly, the Raiders were to take him at 7. Michael Mayer in the second round, fantastic value.
Michael Mayer and then Byron Young are like high floor players, I think.
Yeah.
Who and in positions that you're gonna like. Certainly, Michael Mayer is gonna start right away. I mean, we know that for sure. But even Byron Young, that interior defensive line is like, it's no good.
It's not.
It's no good.
Byron Young will be good for him though.
So I think he plays there and he starts there. So that's why it's obviously it all to a certain degree hinges on Tyree Wilson, but I think those next two picks are really, really good for them.
All right, Denver Broncos.
I don't know what to think about who the Broncos are, what they are, especially on offense.
Marvin Mims was their selection in the second round. I like it. Drew Sanders going last in the third round. Didn't think that was going to happen. Riley Moss going third round as well. Nothing in the fourth round or fifth round. Sixth round they go J.L. Skinner and then Alex Forsythe.
Do you think a team has ever, or when is the last time a team traded up for a white cornerback? First of all, there are not many in the league.
I was going to say,
I don't know if it's ever happened. They're breaking barriers here in Denver.
The Denver Broncos are.
Yeah.
No, look, do you want to start with your analysis of Riley Moss or no? I think he's a good corner. He's just got short arms.
Good. Yeah.
I just don't think you can play him up near the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it's tough. And like you saw it like one-on-ones in the Senior Bowl. It was not
He's got really good instincts. He's got really good eyes. Yeah. So I wonder if he can play safety.
And it comes from like a defense where like they get it right in Iowa in terms of like how to play the position. It's just like you said, he's super fast though, like quick, super quick. Mm-hmm. Just the long arms, not having long arms. Marvin Mims helps you on offense, having like a pure down the field speed guy. I think there's a lot of upside to these type of players who come from, he was coached under Jeff Lebby last year at Oklahoma. That's the offensive coordinator. Vertical passing attack. Maybe not as nuanced as a route runner. So there's upside there. So as long as you don't take Corey Coleman like 7th overall at what it is, and you take Marvin Mims later in the draft, it's a great pick. Sorry to throw Corey Coleman under the bus. Didn't think you would hear Corey Coleman today on the PFF 2023.
Where's Jerry Jeudy going to play when he gets traded?
New York Jets.
Do you think he gets traded?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
I think people still believe in him tremendously.
I like the Drew Sanders pick for them. I wonder if it's a little bit redundant. It just depends where they're going to play him. Because they already have Baron Browning, and I think that he's that player.
Corey Coleman got picked 15th overall. I apologize.
They have Nick Bonito, who is kind of a speed outside rusher kind of a player. Randy Gregory, a little bit of a hybrid kind of player. So I just wondered if it was just, hey, we want more of the same. We want more guys to rotate in there. Or if they're really going to play Drew Sanders as an off-ball linebacker, like where Josie Jewell is, now Alex Singleton. Or is he going to rotate in with those guys and just give you a little bit more size, length at that position?
His length.
Yeah, well, a former edge rusher for sure.
Yeah.
So I didn't love JL Skinner,
okay.
but it's a 6th round pick. It's fine. Alex Forsythe, I think, is a decent bet to make in the 7th round. But there we go. That's the AFC for you. Go to the NFC. Let's start with the NFC East. We'll go with the Dallas Cowboys. Let's start things off with the Cowboys here. Cowboys, did you see the video of Deuce Vaughn? Of his dad crying?
I saw it without sound because I didn't want to cry last night.
No, it was awesome. It was fantastic. Mozzie Smith was their first selection in the 5th round. In the 1st round, would have been a hell of a pick if Mozzie Smith went in the 5th round.
Yeah.
Luke Schoonmaker, the tight end from Michigan, 2nd round. Demarion Overshown, the hybrid linebacker from Texas, going in the 3rd. Viliami Fehoko, the edge rusher from San Jose State, going in the 4th round. Asimi Richards, offensive tackle for North Carolina, in the 5th. Evan Hull, running back from Northwestern, in the 5th as well. And then Deuce Vaughn, we got him down there in the 6th round. For those who don't know, Deuce Vaughn's father works for the Dallas Cowboys as, I think, the director of college personnel?
Director of little guys.
Well, okay. But when they drafted Deuce in the 6th round, they had Deuce's father be the one to call him and tell him that he was going to get drafted. And that was it was emotional. Yeah, cool. if you don't want to cry in that moment, do what Seth did. Just watch the video without sound. Because it's a tearjerker. It's a feel-good moment.
Yeah.
What did we think about
I watched Schindler's List with the sound off just to make sure.
All right. I've never seen it.
I've actually never seen it either. I was like, okay, what's the saddest movie of all time? All right, let's go to the Holocaust, Schindler's List. All right. Maisie Smith.
The movie he's never seen. All right.
Let's get your opinion on Smith, who I think is a high floor type of player, just like the defensive tackle you pick, but in late 1st round, early 2nd round, right? Like not this explosive 3 technique. I'm gonna get to the quarterback type of player, but like you've seen some reps where he does have that explosiveness. Good run defender. It helps them, right? Needs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a really nice pick for the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like, again, I'm a little bit lower on Mozzie Smith.
Right.
Just because I watched a handful of games of his, and I bring this example up all the time. People are probably tired of me saying it. You watch the Ohio State game, you'd be like, this is a top 20 player. I mean, he played incredibly well against Ohio State. If you watch, I think it's the Indiana game, he looked like he doesn't really want to be there. Doesn't really care. And the tape running hot and cold like that worries me a little bit because it wasn't just those 2 games. Man, when he's focused, when the leverage is there, I mean, like he can hold up against double teams really well. He can hold the point of attack. You mentioned, okay, like he's not this like pass rushing 3 tech, but he was number 1 on Bruce Feldman's freak list going into the season. Like this dude can move. Right. So when he pins his ears back and you tell him to, hey, get past the guy who's in front of you, I think that he could do it. So I think totally, just athlete-wise, the floor that you can get from him is a player that you probably take a chance on at the back end of the 1st round. And with the Dallas Cowboys, they wanted to improve the depth along their defensive line. That definitely makes a lot of sense.
So would you have taken Brzee or Benton above him? And the next question is, would you have taken either of those players at 26?
Probably not. Benton would be the closest one to me. Brzee was really tough for me. Brzee is a tough evaluation if you are not doing the interview part of this whole draft process, because you need to talk to Brian Brzee about what he's been through over the last couple of years, getting back from that injury, how it affected him, how it changed his play a little bit. Obviously, what he went through this past year, the tragedy in his family with his sister. I mean, like, that's brutal for anybody to go through. So,
rough.
you know, like, I think he was trying to be there for his team, trying to get there on the field, but you know, could he stay as conditioned as he wanted to? Could he keep the weight on the way that he needed to? Like, all this stuff, I think, goes into Brian Brzez's scouting report, and it's hard for me to totally evaluate that without really getting to know him myself, getting to hear about what actually happened this past year at Clemson, kind of behind the scenes with all that. So, it's not a fair answer to put Brzee in there if you ask me, but it would be a debate between Benton and Smith. I probably would have taken Smith, especially for a 26th overall first-round pick. I like Benton's floor more, but Mazi Smith does give you more in a higher ceiling just because of what he can do athletically.
All right, well, at least we don't have to do the Saints now. You just did 5 minutes on Brian Brzee.
Did the Saints analysis. DeMarvion Overshown, I think, is interesting. I still think that he needs to develop as a true off-ball linebacker, but I'm interested to see how Dan Quinn deploys him in that defense. I like Luke Schoonmaker a lot. Didn't think that he was going to be a second-round pick, but with them losing Dalton Schultz, makes sense. You can get an all-around guy who can give you some plus as a receiver as well.
Here's my take, my Deuce Vaughn take, and it's not even really about Deuce Vaughn.
Okay, sure.
Deuce Vaughn getting picked 6th round, which is where he probably should be taken, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, low positional value, low amount of inches from the ground.
Okay.
The top of his head is not very high from the ground. I don't know why I said it like that. This is the issue. I don't have to bring up old takes now, but this was the issue of why the Chiefs should not have taken Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round, pick 31 or 32 or whatever.
Because you can pick Deuce Vaughn in the 6th?
Because you can't take a player that size in the first round. I don't even care if it's a running back. I just, you can't. That was their issue. Like, everyone's saying, oh, they took a running back. They shouldn't have taken a running back. Like, I'm like, okay with that aspect. It's just like the athletic profile of Clyde was not a first-round pick, especially when, like, Jonathan Taylor was, like, behind them. So anyways, that's why I'm like, I like Deuce Vaughn in this late round idea. It's like really, really good. It's a really good pick.
Washington Commanders are the next team I want to talk about. They take Emmanuel Forbes at 16. Interested to get your thoughts on that. Jartavius Martin, the safety/nickel corner from Illinois at number 47. Ricky Stromberg at 97 in the 3rd round, the center from Arkansas. Braden Daniels, the offensive tackle from Utah in the 4th. KJ Henry, your boy, the edge rusher from Clemson, going in the 5th. Chris Rodriguez in the 6th. And then Andre Jones, linebacker from Louisiana, in the 7th. Thoughts overall?
Yeah, well, I think this is a class of players that I really like Emmanuel Forbes. I think he, obviously the reason why he's not, first of all, pick 16. Pick 16 for a guy with, who's as lanky and as lean as he is, means that if he was a little stouter in terms of his weight, are we talking, like, is the film good enough for him to be a top 10 player? Where Witherspoon went at 5? I think I'm not that far from that. So I think this is a really good pick for them. His coverage tape is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Again, I go by the same stuff: efficiency, movement, understand, and then he's really understanding of routes and concepts that are in front of him. Mm-hmm. I love Emmanuel Forbes, so I'm into it.
He's a really natural football player. The former wide receiver background shows up when you're playing in coverage. 166 scares the crap out of me at the NFL level. Playing corner at 166, it scares the crap out of me. It's 0th percentile. There's no corners in the NFL that are playing at that weight, and that's always very tough to take that kind of a bet. But Forbes does. There's so much that you like. The recovery speed is fantastic. The ball skills are there. You mentioned he moves like a wide receiver because he was a wide receiver. I like Jartavius Martin as well. I think these are two really good secondary players. I think for the Commanders themselves, I thought about going offensive line early for them, but they just went offensive line a little later. It could come back to bite them, but maybe not. Ricky Stromberg, I know some people like him as one of the top 5 centers in this class. It was a pretty good center class, so getting him there. Braden Daniels is kind of an athletic offensive tackle that they're going to take a chance on. You don't want him starting right away, but it's never really the case with fourth-rounders anyways. You get a high-floor player in KJ Henry in the 5th round, and so
love KJ Henry.
You're just taking bets, honestly, on the corners, the secondary players that you drafted up at the top to be just really damn good football players for you, and I think that there's a path for that to be the case. You agree? All right. Well, folks, if you want to get the lowest prices tickets that you can get out there, download the Game Time app. Sometimes you can save up to 60% of whatever face value is on those tickets. You can see exactly what your viewpoint is going to be on the tickets before you even buy them. And so you always know that you are buying with confidence, not only in your views, but also because they have a lowest price guarantee. They will give you 110% off your whatever your purchase is if you find cheaper tickets elsewhere. That's the guarantee that they come with. Download the Game Time app. Use the promo code PFF to get yourself $20 off your first purchase. That is Game Time app, PFF, $20 off. Make it happen. Can we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles next?
Sure.
It's an easy one.
Yeah, it's an easy one.
It's an A+.
Yeah,
Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen,
I can assume
Sidney Brown, Keely Ringo, Tanner McKee, Moro Ojomo. Doesn't get better.
It's
home runs basically at every single round.
I'm going to assume something that you had Nolan Smith as like a top 10 player.
I had Nolan Smith at 12.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's incredible.
I had Jalen Carter 4 and Nolan Smith 12.
Yeah.
Jalen
And Jalen Carter is
one.
the most obvious. You know, that's the funny thing. Like, I know the off-field stuff, so like, we don't talk about that. But like, if there was one generational prospect in this draft, non-quarterback, it's Jalen Carter, right?
On the field?
On the field.
On the field, there was no question about it. He was the best player in this draft. And that's what made his draft night so interesting, right? Because if you had Jalen Carter on the board, he was number one.
How could he not have been number one?
He was going to be number one for every team.
Yeah.
So either he was number one on your big board, or you had him off completely. It's probably not as black and white as we're making it right there, but it's probably not that far off. So for him to go 9, I'm fascinated to hear if we can get some of these local media people to ask about Jalen Carter, these teams that picked before selection number 9.
Well, they're just the Raiders are just going to tell you that we like Tyree Wilson.
Not
better.
publicly.
Yeah,
not publicly.
Course, yeah.
I'm talking about like the off the record stuff, or the stuff that's said from anonymous sources behind the scenes when it's really they're talking to the general manager.
I'm every anonymous source. Did you know that?
It's just you?
It's just me. I get texted so often, and I just have to make up quotes. I'm the anonymous source.
That's tough work for you. I hope you get paid well for it.
No, I do not.
But it's super easy for me. You get impact players at every level.
Man.
I think Tyler Steen can absolutely be a starting guard in this league. I don't know if he can be a starting tackle, but play tackle at Alabama, held up pretty well. You can at least give him a chance there. Put him in interior offensive line. If you have a tackle who gets hurt, you probably start him in a pinch. He's got that versatility to him, which I just think that he's built more towards a guard and has more strengths of an interior offensive lineman. Sidney Brown, one of my favorite football players in this class. I had him as a top 50 player. He misses a lot of tackles, but the motor runs hot at all times. He's such a great athlete. He's so smart. The ball skills are there. The instincts are there. He played free safety. He played strong safety. He played nickel corner for you. He played as almost basically at the linebacker level as a box safety that was standing next to the will linebacker. There's so much to love about his tape and just the kind of football player that he's going to be for him. So this is an A for me, 100%.
Moro Ojomo. Mm-hmm. Honestly, and obviously my evaluation of him was very, very good, and clearly the NFL did not feel that way unless there's some injury, other issues that we don't know about. But seventh round pick, he might be on the field first play of the year, like a first and 10 player, right? Not a third down player right now, not a pass rush player, but first and 10. They're going to play 5 defensive linemen. The middle will probably be Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, like the 3 in the middle. Ojomo's not going to be that far behind, in my opinion.
Let's go to the New York Giants next. First round, Deontay Banks. Second round, John Michael Schmitz. Third round, Jalen Hyatt. I love this man. Love this start for the New York Giants. Fourth round didn't get anybody, but fifth round they grab Eric Gray. Then it's Trey Hawkins, the safety from Old Dominion, Jordan Riley, the defensive tackle from Oregon, and then Javarius Owens, the safety from Houston. Just those first 4 picks, I think, make this a borderline A draft for them. It's exactly what they were looking for. We have seen John Michael Schmitz been mocked to them in the first round. They get him in the second. There have been times when Jalen Hyatt was mocked to them in the first round. They get him in the third. Deonte Banks is a perfect Don Martindale cornerback because of what he is as a man coverage player. Nobody in the NFL played more man coverage last year than the New York Giants. They played the most cover 0 snaps. They played the most cover 1 snaps. This is that kind of a corner. This is somebody who you say, just go guard this wide receiver. And he'll go, okay,
guess what,
100%.
Guess what they do in New York?
Well, yeah, man coverage.
Go guard this receiver.
Right, right. I think he's a perfect player. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think this is a good draft. The Jalen Hyatt thing was interesting because before I put on the tape of him, I had heard people who I trust be like, hey, I know we wanted Biletnikoff, but like this is a very schemed up receiver, right, to get him open. Mm-hmm. But I was pleasantly surprised when there were more NFL translatable reps that he did pretty well in them. So getting him in the third round is not bad at all. I mean, he's tall, he runs very, very fast, and that's always a good starting point for a receiver.
Let's move on to the NFC North, and we'll talk about the Minnesota Vikings first.
Yeah.
Not a lot of picks in this draft, but they moved up and down a little bit, so they got a handful of guys that we could talk about. It's an interesting class. Jordan Addison, Mekhi Blackmon, just double USC connection there.
Yeah.
Jay Ward, Jacqueline Roy.
The double
LSU connection right there. Jaren Hall in the 5th round, Dwayne McBride in the 7th round. What do you think about this draft overall? Maybe Jordan Addison being a first-round wide receiver, does the weight bug you? Do you think he's going to contribute right away? What do you think?
I think, he has no choice but to contribute right away because he's wide receiver 2. And they've needed, with Thielen getting older and now he's not in the team anymore, KJ Osborne, an average player, right? But he's wide receiver 3. To be fair to KJ Osborne, he does a lot of things. The funny thing about KJ Osborne, let's do 45 minutes on KJ Osborne right now.
Go ahead.
Look into the camera.
Go ahead.
So, remember last year when Kevin O'Connell gets the job in Minnesota and everyone was like, oh, it's time for Justin Jefferson in the Cooper Kupp role. And that was like never going to be a thing because that's not where you would want to play Justin Jefferson. You know who played the Cooper Kupp role? KJ Osborne. So they have that player who can, be at times this hybrid type of tight end player. They needed another receiver in space, and that's what Addison is, right? He is so quick in and out of his cuts.
Right. One of the best route runners in this class, for sure.
For sure. So I think this is a great pick for them. It complements Justin Jefferson, who's kind of an everything receiver, right? Just a very good player. And then you needed, because people are like, okay, well, let's just bump KJ Osborne up the depth chart, and he doesn't really replace Adam Thielen. Jordan Addison can replace Adam Thielen, and I'll say Jackie Roy from LSU. His production profile is tremendous. One of the highest graded interior defensive linemen the last 2 seasons, and the tape is. I thought it was really good. I thought it was way above a 5th round pick, so I like that pick.
Route running is the most important trait for me for wide receivers, and so it's very strange that the reservation that I have for Jordan Addison, but he's such a small player. Yeah. He's so small as a football player. And at Pitt, there were times during the Biletnikoff season when you can see him make contested catches over the middle or deep down the field, and I go, man, I don't have to worry about this. But then there's other times, especially in the USC tape that I saw this past season, where it became a problem. And if that's going to continue at the NFL level, I didn't really think he could become a wide receiver 1. But here in Minnesota, with Justin Jefferson there, best you're going to do is probably wide receiver 2. And I think that he could be that. So I like the landing spot for Jordan Addison, even though I have my reservations about him. When it comes to the rest of the class, I like Mekhi Blackmon. That's a really nice 3rd round pick for them. A guy who can really contribute in a secondary that needs good players at corner. Jay Ward, more of just like that veteran leader. I think he's smart. He's got good communication as a secondary player. You mentioned Jay Ward was the one who you said, like, without him, LSU's cornerback room, defensive back room would have just fallen apart.
Yeah.
He was the only real steady presence that they had there, so I think that's big for him. Jaron Hall, kind of just a flyer, right? You're just taking a flyer on him. DeWayne McBride, I love DeWayne McBride. I had DeWayne McBride as a top 5 back in this class. He's the most productive running back in all of college football over the last 2 years. Elite PFF rushing grades, I believe, over the last 2 years, at least last year. Love the footwork, love the vision, I love the contact balance, I love the strength that he runs with. He fumbles the ball way too often. He's got to get better at that. If you don't protect the football, you're not even going to get on the field. And he doesn't have the long speed, but it's okay. Right. I think that's totally okay. You get so many more instances where you can make guys miss an open field, you can follow your blockers correctly, and you can execute that plus get yards after contact when you're always falling forward, when you're always making it tough to get tackles on you. Those are the attributes that I think DeWayne McBride has. It's got to be, well, fumbles and then him not being able to test this draft season probably just made people doubt the long speed, and then he got the turnover problem. So I guess I understand why he fell in this draft, but 7th round, this is a good football player. He didn't
love the peaks and valleys of that speech about DeWayne McBride from you. It really went like it was more of a valley. It was like up, and then you're like, oh, you know what? Actually, nah.
It's because I believe in him clearly more than other people do. Yeah. And when I look at the DeWayne McBride criticism, to me it feels like people that are just looking for DeWayne McBride criticism, and they're not looking at the things that he does really well. They can be on a carry-by-carry basis. They can actually give you a really healthy run game at the NFL level. So could be wrong on him, but I really did. I liked his tape a lot. Being a fan of his reminded me of kind of like how I saw Tyler Algier last year. Just this back who, okay, maybe there are little things about his game that don't allow him to be perfect, but I thought he was underdrafted as well, and obviously we saw what a great year he had. Next team, let's go Green Bay Packers. This is an interesting draft. Felt like a polarizing draft. Yeah. Lucas Van Ness, they're picking in the first round at number 13 overall. Luke Musgrave, one of 2 tight ends that they took. In the second round, Jaden Reed also in the second round, and then at the beginning of the 3rd round, they went with Tucker Kraft. So they got Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave there. Ton of other picks. I'm not going to read them all. Colby Wooden. No, I have no idea how Sean Clifford is in the first half of this list, but Sean Clifford, the quarterback for Penn State, Dontavius Wicks, Carl Brooks, like those selections as well. Drafted a kicker, got in on the kicker party, and then this wasn't Mr. Irrelevant grade to Bose. That was Steve's pick to be Mr. Irrelevant. I thought that he was right, but 256 it was not. Anthony Johnson Jr., the safety from Iowa State, versatile player, good football player. Shocked he was a 7th rounder as well. But let's focus on the guys at the top. Those first 3 rounds is where we expect to see a lot of impact from the Packers. What'd you think about Lucas Van Ness and then the doubling up on the tight ends?
I love Lucas Van Ness tape. Powerful player with a little bit of bend, a little bit of explosion, just like bull rushes people back, can add some moves hopefully, but right now I think he's a really good player, and I think he fits what they want to do because you see inside-outside versatility. We've seen the Packers do that for many years, and especially with like the way they want to play with a lot of like 5-down defensive linemen, you're gonna need players who can play inside and outside. And I really like this pick. I love the 2 tight ends they took. And I might have like flipped them, to be honest. Like I might have said Tucker Kraft is a 2nd round pick, though pick 42 would have been a little rich, and then Luke Musgrave is this pick 78 in the 3rd round. But 2 tight ends that I really liked, and 2 different type of players. So you have this like super tall, long-legged Luke Musgrave. You have the Tucker Kraft FCS bully, totally bullied everyone in the FCS level last year, and even Jaden Reed. Like this is where those things where it's like, right now he is a super solid at like so many of the different wide receiver traits that this could be a really good haul for them, the first 4 picks.
Guys, if you need life insurance for your family, the place that you need to go to is meetfabric.com. That's MEET fabric.com/PFF. It is made by parents for parents to give you affordable life insurance policies and investment solutions that's right in front of you at an easy online hub. You can take their quiz and see exactly what you would need in a customized plan. So it's all right in front of you. They got a 30-day money-back guarantee so you can shop safely. Also have over 1,600 5-star reviews on TrustPilot.com. Check them out, meetfabric.com/PFF. Take the quiz and get yourself some personalized life insurance for you and your family to make the best decisions possible. Want to hit on the Chicago Bears next. Darnell Wright, their selection at number 10 overall. Carmen Vitale, who covers them for Fox Sports, said that it was always going to be Darnell Wright, wherever they were going to end up picking at 9. They ended up picking at 10. Gervin Dexter, another big defensive lineman there for them in the second round. Tyreek Stevenson, the corner from Miami, in the second as well. Third one, Zach Pickens, the load from South Carolina. Roshan Johnson, Tyler Scott, back-to-back picks in the fourth round. Noah Sewell, Terrell Smith, their fifth round selections, and then Travis Bell and Kendall Williamson in the seventh round. This is a pretty stacked draft. A lot of beef.
A lot of beef, man.
A lot of strength.
A lot of loads.
But getting Tyler Scott in the fourth, Tyreek Stevenson in the second, I think this was a very well-rounded draft, and honestly, I truly believe they're going to get some sort of contribution from the players they drafted in round 1 all the way to round 5, depending on what they do with Noah Sewell and how he ends up panning out at the NFL level. But I see really good contributors here from the Chicago list.
Yeah, Darnell Wright, they loved him from the jump, right? Mm-hmm. There was a story that they had him do like a 3-hour workout for them, like just to make, like, cross all the T's, dot all the I's. So, and he's a good player, really, really good player. I think that Trevon Dexter just didn't do it for me. To me,
he's a run defender.
Even that, man, I wasn't super into.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I wasn't super into it. But I like Zach Pickens later. Like, I would have taken Zach Pickens above Trevon Dexter. Maybe not in the second round, but like I would have taken him above him. So I like that. I think Stevenson. I'm Lauren Stevenson as well. Like we're very different. Like Stevenson had his struggles. I think there was a position change. I think you said that.
He played nickel at Georgia, and then he played on the outside at Miami. And he played more man coverage stuff at Miami just because he wanted to, again, tell me to cover that guy, and I'm going to go cover that guy. And I think he has the athleticism and the ability to do that.
Yeah, but so like I said, I just didn't like him as much. So like I'll defer to you because
I'm higher on the class. I see Gervin Dexter as a better run defender.
I love that for you. I love that for the Bears.
Thank you, appreciate it. Darnell Wright was one of my favorite offensive tackles in this class. I had him as an offensive tackle too, behind Paris Johnson. So evaluated Peter Skoronski as an interior offensive lineman. So had him as offensive tackle too. Loved this selection there. Gervin Dexter, again, I think it's a nice run defender for him. I think Zach Pickens is a nice athlete that they get on the interior. Tyler Scott I had as one of the better receivers in this draft. I had him as a top 10 receiver, so them getting him all the way down in the fourth round, I believe it was. That's a big-time steal for me. So I like the speed players that they chose on both sides of the ball, wide receiver and corner, and then I like a lot of the beef that they added too. I think this is going to be a very solid strength-building class here for the Bears, which are trying to round out that roster, get it in winning window condition. Detroit Lions, last team in this division that we had to get to. Jahmyr Gibbs, their first selection at number 12 overall. Jack Campbell at 18. Sam Laporta at 34. Brian Branch at 45. Hendon Hooker at 68. A lot of people said that if you took that, or even if you just went back to the Brian Branch selection and completely flipped it, they took Brian Branch at number 12. If they took Sam Laporta at 18, if they took Jack Campbell after that, and then Jahmyr Gibbs at 45, we'd be talking about this draft a little bit differently. But I don't want to say that it doesn't matter, but certainly they got their guys. Broderick Martin, Colby Sordow, Antoine Green. That rounds it out. But what did you make of this roller coaster that we had over the first 2 days of the draft here with the Detroit Lions?
I think the thing that but I think the reason why we talk about these running back selections being a bit odd, and I think we're going to talk about it with the Falcons soon. When I look at the way that the Lions were able to run the football, it was scheme and offensive line. And it's like, for sure, schematically, there's always a chance that, you don't hit the right notes going forward. And so you're going to need to fall back on a running back who can handle when it's not all good. Though the offensive line, I think, is going to maybe even get even better next year. So that's the concern. It's like, okay, well, what were the reasons for our very good run game last year? Scheme and offensive line. Those two things might be stable. And then it's like, well, then why did we just take a running back at 12? I don't care if you take a running back in the second round at that point or even late in the first round, but taking a running back at 12, does he add in the passing game? and it's a good player. Like there's nothing to do with Jahmyr Gibbs himself. It's just like the reason you were a good running football team is because you invested in the offensive line, and Ben Johnson as a play caller was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So go somewhere else then.
I think that positional value and draft positional value is an important part of conversations. But I think that an under-talked about element of this conversation is where teams are in a winning window.
Yeah.
Because when you are in a winning window, you can afford to veer off course a little bit for a player that you know is going to be high impact for you. Clearly, they were done with DeAndre Swift. He gets traded immediately after this pick happens. So clearly they were going to move on from DeAndre Swift. The Lions think they have a legit shot to make it to the NFC Championship game, maybe even a Super Bowl. They were a number one scoring offense in the NFL for a portion of last year. They're hoping that the defense is a lot better since it started to come on a little bit as of late, and they made some changes in the secondary.
Yeah.
So this is a team that believes that they're close, and they wanted those handful of extra players to help them in a current winning window. Gibbs does that. They're prioritizing Gibbs because of how he can help them in the run game and the passing game. Gibbs as a top 15, top 20 selection would not have been smart for every team in the NFL. Even if you like Gibbs, and I had Gibbs 20th overall on my board. I like him. He's a very good football player. But for the Lions specifically, to me, there is more leniency to just you can't do this because the value is not there. For the Lions themselves, now I don't know if it's totally worth it at 12, but it is more valuable to them to get a player like Jahmyr Gibbs and say, we're going to pay more for him in the draft because he fits exactly what we need. We are in a winning window. We feel like that is an element of our team that we don't have, and we're going to take it over the top. And I'm sure that they felt the same way about Jack Campbell. They felt the same way about Sam Laporta. And obviously Brian Branch, who we think is a great fit for them anyways, who we've mocked to him going to the first round. So that's the way that I view the Lions and their situation.
I just think
it's different because of where they are right now as a team.
But the problem is, where actually are they? They did not make the playoffs last year, and Jared Goff is their quarterback.
But they think they're one of the top three
but that's a
teams
problem,
in the
right?
NFC.
And that's not understanding who they are. Now, obviously, they feel good about.
I think they're close to it. The NFC stinks.
The NFC stinks. I get it. But so here, I know we gotta get out of here soon. But like, my Jared Goff take is that I'm torn. I'm very torn about Jared Goff. At some point, he's played enough snaps that you like. He's good. Like, he can be a Tannehill, right?
Okay,
where you just like,
this is a separate conversation.
It's a separate conversation.
Because they clearly don't doubt Jared Goff.
Right, they do not doubt Jared Goff.
So
the problem is maybe you should doubt
that's
Jared
a completely
Goff.
different conversation.
We're good. All right, we're good.
Lions are going to be one of the best teams in the NFC for sure. Okay, so let's start with the Carolina Panthers as we get into the NFC South. Bryce Young, the number one overall selection in this draft, so they get their franchise quarterback there. Jonathan Mingo, the wide receiver from Ole Miss, going in the second round. DJ Johnson from Oregon, total reach in my opinion, but hey, maybe they can make the most out of the athleticism there. Love the Chandler Zavala selection in the fourth round. Love the Jamie Robinson selection in the fifth round. So overall, really big fan of this draft. The DJ Johnson one's a little strange to me, but like that does not weigh that heavily on me really liking what Carolina did here this weekend.
All right, I mean, I wasn't here on Thursday, so I'll give you my Bryce Young ideas.
Please do.
Fits the playmaker thing that I was talking about recently. He gets out of the pocket, he can make plays, arm angles, crazy stuff. He is an outlier of all outliers when it comes to quarterback play. We cannot overlook that. Now, at his size, when you look at the comparisons and like you look at Russell Wilson, it's like, no, he's a different player than Russell Wilson. He throws the ball over the middle of the field. He can see it. He can make plays. More like Breeze, how Breeze was able to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Not that I'm saying he's going to be either Russell Wilson or Drew Brees. I think when people talk about Bryce Young, the first thing they talk about is the processing and like, oh, he's ready to play right now. He's already here. He's already at the ceiling. And it's like, I don't think that's fair to him either. There are a lot of plays where he is leaving the pocket too early, where he's not letting stuff play out in front of him while he's in the pocket. He gets out of it because he's a playmaker. But that means to me, that tells me he is still has the ability to get even better. So I think that's great. I think he's an insane pre-snap processor. And when and that allows him, and especially at the size, that is going to allow him to play fast and to kind of cut corners. And I mean cut corners in a positive way. Like, I don't have to look here, 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 here to make my decision. I can just go I know this is about to happen, so I can go here right away. Mm-hmm. And I love that. That is such a unique thing to see in a college quarterback. You just don't see it very often. But I think he can get better as a post-snap processor. When that thing he thought was going to happen does not happen, we got to see better play. So he's not this maxed out prospect that I think a lot of people think he is. And that's good. That's good. And that's it. Bryce Young.
I think they drafted a lot of potential starters in this draft. Yeah. Obviously, Bryce Young's a potential starter. Mingo has a chance to immediately go for starter snaps in a depleted wide receiver room, or I should say, at least say unproven wide receiver room. Yeah. DJ Johnson, athletic edge player. I think at best he's probably going to be a rotational guy, but could be an impact player for them as a speed rusher. Chandler Zavala, to me, is a potential starter at one point for this offensive line. Jamie Robinson is the same way. I think he's a rotational player at worst. Maybe even can be a spot starter for you because of the plays that he was able to make. We'll move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A very classic Buccaneers draft, it feels like. Elijah Cansey, defensive lineman, going in the first round. Cody Mauch in the second. Yaya Diaby in the third. Go down to the fifth. Savosia Denise, the linebacker from Pittsburgh. And then Payne Durham as well to get some more tight end depth there for Purdue. Josh Hayes in the sixth. Trey Palmer in the sixth. Jose Ramirez in the sixth. Really the impact guys I think are at the top. The rest of them are just going to be depth players for this team anyways. But I think they're going to be contributing depth players, honestly. I felt like for what Tampa needed, this felt like a really solid draft. They didn't get an offensive tackle, which worries me. Clearly, they're okay with Luke Gedeke playing right tackle because it was announced that Tristan Wirfs is going to switch over to left tackle. I like the trench depth players to them. It all depends how they're going to deploy Elijah Cansey to see if you're going to get the most out of him. How worried are you on Cansey?
I'm not. It's tough, man. It's tough to be that small and win in the trenches in the NFL. Mm-hmm. That's really tough. I think.
Is he an edge rusher?
He might be an edge rusher.
I think he might be an edge rusher
like
too.
Melvin Gordon, not Melvin Gordon. Who am I thinking of?
Melvin Ingram. Yeah, close.
It might be that type of player where he just got to move outside but then it's like he's still small and it's like, is he a good enough pass rusher on the outside against tackles now? Right, it's a different ball game when you're playing against NFL tackles. So I wonder about that. So it's could be a huge hit, just like Aaron Donald was a huge hit. But man, Aaron Donald is a superhuman human. He's superhuman.
Yeah.
His strength for that size is better than we've ever seen. His quickness for that size is better than I've ever seen. Like, are you just saying that Elijah Cansey is superhuman in those areas? It's rough.
The arm length is short too, which makes the edge rush projection tough.
Right, that's tough.
So I don't know. Todd Bowles loves to get creative with his defensive linemen. Yaya Diaby, I think, is a perfect example. He's somebody who could play a little inside out, but he's more of an edge rusher. He's just an explosive dude who has the body type, I feel like, to be able to play right away. Cody Mauch, kind of the same. They got him listed offensive tackle. They announced that he's going to play offensive guard for them. So he's an interior guy, which makes sense because if you're moving Luke Gedeke to right tackle, you might be okay with playing Cody Mauch right away. Next to, oh my goodness, the center. Who am I forgetting?
It's your team, buddy. Don't ask me.
Come on. Help me out here. Throw me a lifeline. The Buck center. Long red hair.
Yeah, Ryan Jensen.
Thank you. I was blanketed so hard on that one. And then Payne Durham, I think, can actually get in the tight end rotation for them. So I think that this was a good draft. Saints, let's get to your Saints. I already broke down Brian Brzee.
And I agree with everything you said about Brian Brzee.
Brian Brzee, the first selection for them in the first round. Then Isaiah Foskey in the second. Kendry Miller in the third. Traded up to the very beginning of the fourth round for Nick Salivari, the offensive tackle from Old Dominion. They get the future Drew Brees and Jake Haener in the fourth round. Also get A.T. Perry. It's in there in the sixth.
A.T. Perry might be my favorite pick in this draft.
All right.
A lot of people saw him as like a second-round pick and a really good receiver. I think if it's one of those things. It's kind of like the opposite of Kalijah Kancey, what we're talking about, where it's like he wins with bullishness at the break point, and it's like, okay, but you got to be able to separate without touching someone in the NFL, right? That's how you win.
Right.
But for the most part. But maybe he's a second round pick, so like I should be saying this. But maybe he's one of these guys who can still win, with some bully ball at the break point. There are players like that for sure, right? Because like they're outliers.
Right.
So that's what I'm hoping for, as a Saints fan. That's what I'm hoping for, because that's a really good pick if that happens.
I like Foskey for them. I think Foskey's solid.
Fits what they like at defensive end as well, right? And they need defensive end. They need interior. Like they got the needs right. And hopefully they're good players.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say.
Haener is interesting to me because he feels like stability at the backup quarterback position for the first time in a while in New Orleans.
You didn't like the Ian Book experiment?
No.
You didn't like the Tommy Stevens experiment?
No. Keep going.
You didn't like the Taysom Hill experiment?
No. Keep going.
Do you like the current Jameis Winston experiment?
No. None of these quarterbacks give you stability at the top. Or at the depth, right? At the backup quarterback position. And so I genuinely think, especially with Derek Carr there now, Derek Carr's starting quarterback, I think Jake Haener's probably the backup, in my opinion. They clearly weren't super bullish on bringing Jameis Winston back because it took them a long time to do it.
Yeah.
I think Jameis Winston had to take a lot less money than he thought he was going to get on the free agent market. And he goes back to New Orleans because I think it's a similar situation for him. Knows the offense, thinks the offense is getting better, but that's what I see. I see it's kind of like a crowded room of quarterback options right now for the Saints, but next year, I bet it's just Derek Carr and Jake Haener, and that's it. It's just those two quarterbacks.
If they hit with these two defensive line picks especially, with how bad the NFC is, with how bad the NFC South is, they're very close to an NFC Championship type of roster.
The NFC South does stink.
Yeah,
it does.
You're getting a home game in the playoffs.
Last team. No, you're right. Yeah, right.
Not that it worked out for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year.
You know what? Atlanta Falcons took Bijan Robinson in the top 10 at number 8 overall. Then Matthew Bergeron in the second round. One of my favorite players in this draft. Zach Harrison in the third. Clark Phillips in the fourth. DeMarco Hellens in the seventh. And Javon Wynn in the seventh to round it out. How do we feel about this one? A lot of notable names on the Falcons draft list here.
I mean, Bijan Robinson makes them even more fun on offense than they were last year. Arthur Smith is a tremendous play caller. Runs a great offense. Offensive line is really good. They re-signed Lindstrom, who had a breakout season. The Bijan pick is just like, I go back kind of the same thing. It's like a little different than what I said about the Lions, but it's like you were able to get a tremendously productive season out of Tyler Algier, who was picked late in the draft last season. You were able to get this tremendous season out of Cordell Patterson as this like hybrid back, right? Because he's a running back, he's a receiver, he's a whatever. Now he is going to be 32 years old, so I get that. That's my concern. It's like, well, you did it already with non-premium picks. You can probably do it again. In fact, we see it every year. The teams do it again. So it's like, all right, you don't have anyone on defense, man. You're not good on defense. Had a chance to go and get some good defensive players. Didn't do it.
Well, they pumped up the secondary a lot.
Yeah.
Right,
Jeff Okudah, there's a reason he was available.
They already have A.J. Terrell. Like, it's not like they're betting on Jeff Okudah to
right, but you need two corners, right? So it's like, that's my concern.
Sure.
And I'm like,
I don't hate this as much as you do.
I love Bijan though.
Right.
Fuck, he's good.
Right.
He's so good.
Right. Sure.
But I'm like, I think you could just went at a different position, and I know if Patterson is
clearly
like
they would have been able to get Gibbs later.
Yeah, apparently, if Patterson is past his prime and like that's what they're thinking, then I'm okay with that. I'm more okay with the pick.
Okay.
Tyler Algier had like 1,000 yards last year.
I know. He was my RB3 last year. I like Tyler.
Me too. I like them.
I like Zach Harrison. At least he gets some unique size along the defensive line. They didn't really hit edge rusher as hard as I thought they were going to, but it's hard for me to hate on the Matthew Bergeron pick in the second round because he's one of my favorite players in this class. Like, I think he's such a great versatile offensive lineman. Can play on the interior for you. Can play offensive tackle. Played left tackle this past year for Syracuse, but I do think that he's probably more of an interior guy in the NFL, but I think he could start for the Falcons pretty soon here. So I really do like this class. Clark Phillips, to me, got picked appropriately. He was, what was he, a fourth-round pick?
Yeah,
I didn't
something like that.
I think he was a fourth-round pick, and a lot of people were like, oh, Clark Phillips maybe back into the first round, second round. He's just too small. So you're much more comfortable making the bet on him because he is a good football player. He's got some good tape. You're just worried if he's going to get bullied at the NFL level, but you absolutely bet on that at the fourth. I want to shout out our friends over at Underdog who are sponsoring this stream. They're bringing to you the best and biggest fantasy football tournament ever. Best Ball Mania 4. If you don't know what Best Ball is, it's very simple. You just enter Best Ball Mania 4 on Underdog's slick app, and that's it. You just set it and forget it. It's right there. Underdog optimizes your lineup every single week to create whatever the highest scoring one is. So don't forget to set your lineups because they got it for you. Best Ball Mania 4 is your shot to win a prize of up to $3 million. Get signed up today on UnderdogFantasy.com. Visit the App Store. Use the promo code PFF, and we will get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Underdog Fantasy, use the promo code PFF. And again, so I was just looking at the average draft position for some of these wide receivers, these rookie wide receivers. Now I'm looking at running backs. Dude, Bijan Robinson's RB4. Even with Tyler Algier there.
And Cordarrelle Patterson.
And I think Nathan Yonke said he had Bijan Robinson RB3, so that might be a little bit of value there for you guys. Jahmyr Gibbs, RB18. I think it's probably appropriate. Zach Charbonnet, RB27. I actually like Israel Abanikanda, and he's only RB44. Draft him higher than that. I think the Jets love this dude. And depending on where Breece Hall is with his recovery, with his explosiveness, dude, Abanikanda in New York, he might get some carries for you. Of course, Devon A-Chain as well. I think he's RB51. I'm looking on this list. That's Devon A-Chain could be a monster for you.
Yeah, I think so.
He could be a big fantasy winner. Let's go to the Los Angeles Rams to kick things off at the NFC West for the final division that we're talking about here on our recap show. Didn't have a first-round pick. Steve Avila was their first selection in the second round. Byron Young, the one from Tennessee, pick number 77 in the third round. Also got Kobe Turner in the third round. Stetson Bennett, fourth-round pick.
Yeah. Apparently, they're QB1.
Yeah, right. Well, if Matthew Stafford's back doesn't work, then they probably wouldn't have any other choice. Nick Hampton, Warren McClendon, Davis Allen, Puka Nacua, Trey Hodges Tomlinson in the sixth round, Zach Evans in the sixth round. What do we think of this class?
I think they hit. Sorry, I don't know if they hit, but I think I like.
No, just make this statement.
Yes, I think they are winning the Super Bowl.
Okay, that was a little too far. Hone it back in.
Yeah. Steve Avila, Byron Young, just solid players, man. Like, I don't know what else to say other than that, just like super solid, and I think this is probably where they need to be right now. It's just getting higher floor players. Because they don't have a good roster right now.
If you ask
Kobe
me,
Turner, another high floor player, especially at the pick. Like, I like it.
This is as good as they could have done.
Yeah, I think so.
Steve Avila could be an impact player for you. I agree. Could be a starter. Byron Young could be a really nice situational pass rusher with the explosiveness.
They have to be starters right now.
Okay, that's very true. That's very true. Kobe Turner.
Yeah,
I thought
agree.
He's a fantastic player. Love where they got him. Stetson Bennett, obviously, the opinions on Stetson Bennett are all over the place, but Warren McClendon's a good offensive lineman from Georgia. Davis Allen could be a contributing tight end. Puka Nacua, obviously, could make a difference in this wide receiver room. I think Trey Hodges Tomlinson could be a potential rotational or starter for them. It's a good draft. You're taking a chance on Zach Evans, the former number one overall recruit in the country in the sixth round.
Yeah, and then you're like, hey, we have so many picks. Like, if two of the later round picks, you're just throwing darts, right?
It's a math game.
Two of the later round picks become
game.
Starters. Like, we're laughing. We're laughing.
Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. This was a lot of people's favorite mock draft, or favorite draft, I should say.
Yeah, we're post draft.
No, we're not. The MDS has been updated to the 2024 machine, and as you can tell,
when the Seahawks pick 32nd next year, who's
32nd? 32nd.
Geno, baby.
Jack
the Geno
Sawyer,
story.
the defensive end from Ohio State.
You know
why I know that name?
Written.
You know why I know that name? Because we flipped over the mock draft machine. to the 2024 prospects, which you can see over right now over at PFF.com. Devon Witherspoon is how we started this bad boy off. Jack Smith and Jay with Derek Hall, Zach Charbonnet, Anthony Bradford, Cam Young, Mike Morris, Oluwatimi, Kenny McIntosh. Start to finish, man, this has got potential impact players. I loved what Seattle did. I thought they'd go defensive line a lot sooner than pick 37. But I can't hate on Witherspoon and Jack Smith and Jigba.
Anderson not available at 5 anymore.
Yep.
He gets picked 3, he goes 3rd, and then clearly just issues with Jalen Carter off the field, I guess, right? Not that Witherspoon isn't worth the 5th overall pick. It just seems like Carter would be, if he was everything you wanted him to be, he probably is that pick. Devin Witherspoon, explosive out of his breaks.
Correct.
His first step out of his breaks is so good.
Nuts.
It's crazy, and that's like both like covering receivers and then also like coming down in the run game when he sniffs it out. Freaking explosive player. I don't know why I said that like Dr. Evil.
You did. You threw a little Dr. Evil in there.
Look at how many forced incompletions. 18 forced incompletions. Press man, right? Like, not that they played a lot of press man and that wasn't their thing last year, but if you wanted it to be press man, he's a guy. I like it. I like it a lot. I also really like, let's stay on the defensive side, I really, really like Derek Hall. Mm-hmm. Explosive edge rusher, speed to power type of player. Long arm, love it. On offense, JSN was my top receiver. Love you could bring him in slowly to a certain degree. You have two starting NFL receivers. He'll play in the slot. Lockett and DK can play outside. He can play in the slot. Maybe they figured out a way to use George Fant. Like, this could be a really good offense, and especially because Geno is going to continue to play. And then the last thing I'll say about the Seahawks offense, the kind of dip and play at the end of the year very much coincides with the dip and play by the 2 rookie tackles. When they started to give up a lot more pressures, when they couldn't handle themselves as much as the year went on, the whole offense kind of like cratered a bit. They're going into their second year. They got a real offseason. Yeah. I think they hit on both those players. I love Charles Cross last year.
Yeah,
love Charles Cross last year and Lucas too. So if those 2 guys are get better, sky is the limite. C'est la limite.
It's the way that they have really slingshotted this rebuild after trading away Russell Wilson has been incredibly impressive. And I think that this draft class is just more steps in the right direction towards that being the case. San Francisco 49ers did not pick in the first round or the second round. Third round, they got Jair Brown, the safety from Penn State. And then their second selection of the weekend was kicker Jake Moody at pick 99. Incredible. Cam Latu, the tight end from Alabama, in the third round as well. Darrell Luter Jr. from South Alabama. Robert Beal Jr. from Georgia. Those are 2 fifth-round picks. D. Winters in the 6th round. Braden Willis, the tight end from Oklahoma, in the 7th. Ronnie Bell, the wide receiver from Michigan, in the 7th. And then Jalen Graham, the linebacker from Purdue, to round it all out. This is probably my least favorite draft.
Well, I mean, there's not much to talk about with this one.
I'm not as big on Jair Brown as other people are. Cam Latu is a fine tight end, but I don't know if he's going to be a big-time impact tight end at the next level. I like Darrell Luter Jr. That was a solid pick. Robert Beal could be a nice little rotational guy for him. Maybe D. Winters could be a nice rotational guy in that linebacker room. But honestly, I wasn't really a fan. This is a very low-impact draft for me. Unless Jake Moody becomes the greatest kicker of all time.
You heard it here first. Jake Moody is becoming the greatest kicker of all time.
Then this is an A.
Then I agree. Look, there's a reason they don't have these picks. They've traded them. They've tried to go and get players, and it's funny because it's worked and it hasn't worked. Like the trading hasn't really worked. What's worked is Kyle Shanahan's offense and DeMeco Ryans' defense has worked, right? Like, so I don't know. Hopefully one of the 2 players. I don't know a lot of these guys, to be honest. So
I think they're kind of low impact players. But hey, Kyle Shanahan's an unbelievable head coach.
The reason I don't know them is because they weren't high impact players that I was like, I need to watch these guys.
Minus Jake Moody, who's the greatest kicker.
Minus Jake Moody, whose tape I watched grinded to a pulp.
Of course. Yeah. Grinded into dust.
Yeah.
I'm talking mortar and pestle.
Give me. I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Please don't.
Give me one scouting jargon thing that you would say about a kicker.
He's leggy.
All right, next team. That's good. I like that one.
Arizona Cardinals are the last team that we're talking about here on this show. One of my favorite drafts.
Yes.
So we're
100%.
trying to save, I don't know about the best for last, but one of the best for last. The way that they went about taking Paris Johnson, huge. And we'll get to that in a second, but they take him with their first selection at pick number 6. B.J. Ojulari in the second round. Garrett Williams in the third. Also Michael Wilson in the third. John Gaines, Clayton Tune, Owen Papo, Keitrell Clark, Dante Stills. Look at this glass, baby. It's beautiful. It's like a beautiful Italian dish coming out right to you, right before you eat it. That's what I feel like I'm looking at here in Monty Osenfort's first draft.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. The way that I mentioned it, the way that they got to the point where they drafted Paris Johnson Jr., a player that they would have taken at number 3 overall. They move back from 3 to 12, don't panic, get from 12 to 6, and in doing so, they get the guy that they always wanted, and instead they just add a first-round pick and a third-round pick next year. It does not get better than that.
Dude.
Beautiful GMing by Osenfort in his first year as general manager.
GMing by Kyler Murray.
Sure, yeah. Because he said he liked Paris Johnson Jr. The Paris Johnson Jr. pick doesn't even almost doesn't.
Yeah, it's like
matter.
I don't even care.
Right, it could have been anybody.
Because it's really just like they might have picks.
If it was Devon Witherspoon, I'd feel the same way.
100%.
If it was Will Anderson, I'd feel the same way. Like if it was Jalen Carter, I'd feel the same way. The way that they went about this is why this is one of my favorite drafts. But I do like.
Dude, imagine they have picks 1 and 2 next year.
Caleb Williams.
And Drake May.
And you don't cut Kyle.
And then second round, Jaden Daniels.
You just make them roommates.
Yeah,
and then you have a reality show.
No, what you do is you try and splice their genes together and create like a super quarterback. Okay, let's talk about the actual players.
Okay.
Rather than splicing genomes together. B.J. Ojulari.
Love him.
Right?
One of the most polished pass rushers in this class.
So he got so many moves.
Yep.
He's after the quarterback in a hurry. Maybe not a great run defender, but this is where you take a guy who's who's good at like one thing, right? And especially if that one thing is pass rushing, then you love that. You love that for them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that to me was the pick because I would have said maybe close to a first round for BJ Ojulari, mm-hmm. who's been playing good football for like 3 years at LSU. Michael Wilson, wide receiver, Stanford.
One of my favorites.
Ooh.
One of my favorites. Set up artist, man. Understands how to win at the position so well. Gets off the line of scrimmage and he's already putting you in the pot to get cooked.
From your mouth to God's ears. Is that the expression?
It is.
I think I got it.
No, you nailed it. That was good. No, he's been one of my favorite players throughout this entire process.
Yeah.
I think he's a top 10 wide receiver in this class, and he's getting slept on a little bit too much. The injury history is an issue.
Yeah.
He just didn't play a lot of football over the last couple of years, but was voted a team captain. Yeah. So good off the line of scrimmage, great reliable hands, body type that you want.
Cooking at the Senior Bowl one-on-ones.
Yes.
I know we shouldn't talk about the Senior Bowl one-on-ones that much because like how much does that mean?
Yeah, but it matters when you win that.
Yes, exactly,
much.
exactly. Like so clearly.
It's the same thing with Tank Dell.
With Tank Dell, yes.
Tank Dell's
the two best Senior Bowl
matters
tapes.
because of what Mike Renner said about it, where it's like people talk about like stop and start ability. Tank Dell's is just rare, and he shows at the Senior Bowl. So if you win that much of the Senior Bowl, then it matters.
Who has better stop-start ability? Tank Dell, University of Houston wide receiver, and then current Houston Texan. Seth Galina, Division III Flag Plus football Montreal, Quebec.
I mean, I haven't seen your recent tape. I watched a couple of years ago, but I'd say it was a toss-up. I don't know if you lost some speed.
I never lose speed.
Okay, then it's probably you. Garrett Williams as well, another player who, if not for the injuries, would have been drafted higher. Mm-hmm. So they're taking risks on these two players in Garrett Williams and Michael Wilson, but if you hit on both of them, you got starters. John Gaines, a versatile interior offensive lineman who I think could be a potential starter for Clayton Tune. Backup, okay, that's fine. Owen Papos
there's people that like Clayton Tune.
Yes, right.
There's one guy upstairs that likes Clayton Tune.
God?
God loves He loves Clayton Tune.
Owen Pappo, I think, is going to be a stud on special teams for you.
5-star player, 5-star recruit. Yeah.
Yep, because of the athleticism.
He was like a big-time recruit, man, back in the day.
He was. Keitrell Clark can be a starting nickel for you.
Dante Stills can get pass rush from the interior, I think.
Yep. Look, this is an A, folks.
It's an A, and you have to
like
add both, hopefully next year's draft class too.
Yeah.
They are planning on not winning a lot of games this year, and that's fine.
Yep.
You don't get that opportunity a lot in the NFL, but Austin Ford being a first-year GM who's not going to have his starting quarterback for most of the season,
yes,
he gets that pass, and I'm into it.
Yep. This is an A. This is an A from us.
Yep.
You guys can see what kind of grades we're giving every single selection in the updated draft guide over at PFF.com. If you have a PFF subscription and you have the draft guide, we're going to be updating that bad boy throughout the week, telling you what grades that we're giving all these draft hauls, every single individual pick. We're also going to be grading off seasons too. We're going to update you on where your team is with the salary cap, how they use their salary cap throughout the off season, what we thought of it just overall. So it's not just the draft, an entire off season guide basically is what the draft guide's turning into. You can go see that if you got if you have a subscription over at PFF.com. And if you need a promo code to get one, entice you a little bit to sign up, DRAFT40 is the promo code to get you 40% off. So go get a subscription, Draft 40. Check out the updated draft guide, and it's going to have all sorts of different grades, all sorts of analysis that you guys can see there. Seth, I actually have a treat. Our producer in my ear just said that we have a Seth-specific graphic that we can show from this weekend.
There it is.
Most Canadians drafted ever in a single draft class. These are good football players, too.
Yeah.
Brown brothers are fantastic. I think Bergeron's his feature starter in this league.
Matthew Bergeron might be the best Canadian of all time when it's all said and done. Like, he's a good player.
Wow.
Only because I can't think of any other Canadian other than
better than Connor McDavid?
Best Canadian NFL player of all time.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like, Matthew Bergeron, then Connor McDavid, then Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I thought that's what it was going to be. But congrats, man. You're represented very well historically in 2023.
All these guys are going to get taken in the 7th round of the CFL draft next year, just so the CFL team has their rights if they don't pan out.
Oh, really? Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
Okay. We need to make sure that we pay attention to that. Oh, also congrats to Seth and Galina.
Thank you, my wife. My wife.
Appreciate everybody watching all of our draft coverage, not just the draft recap show here, but all 3 days of the coverage that we had here of the 2023 NFL Draft. Seth, this has been fun, man. Appreciate it as always.
Always a pleasure, buddy.
Yeah. All right, so download the Game Time app if you guys haven't yet. You will get 60% off, potentially 60% off, and whatever that price is, it's the lowest price guaranteed over the Game Time app, whether it's a sporting event, whether it's a concert, whether it's theater, comedy, whatever. Your tickets can have the lowest price guaranteed by using the Game Time app. So go check it out and use that promo code PFF to get $20 off whatever your first purchase is. Appreciate everybody watching the show. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That's Seth Galina. Thanks so much for watching all of our 2023 NFL Draft coverage. Make sure you stay tuned to PFF.com for all of our post-draft coverage. We'll see you guys next time.